And at 10, Tangent. The Superman of Earth Tangent was originally a human named Harvey Dent, who gained superpowers through a freak accident. He became one of the top superheroes, however, after defeating Ultra Humanite, who on this Earth was created by a US government super soldier project. He became too powerful to be controlled and then threatened to destroy the world. Yeah. But after the death of Superman's wife, he became dark and vengeful, taking over the world. While he protected the world from crime, he was still tyrannical, not allowing any freedom of thought. And this is where the story of Tangent Superman's reign begins. I don't know why Superman is so codependent on Lois, or whoever his wife ends up being, because like, whenever he loses his wife, he ends up going berserk. Like bro, you literally just you lost your whole planet. I think like one death, even if it is the love of your life, isn't gonna be that much. I mean, this version didn't lose his home planet, but like still. Other versions in this list, you get it. And at 9, Subject B-Zero. Subject B-Zero, also known as the Monster, was a creation of Lex Luthor, presumably used to combat Superman, but was taken out of stasis early to help combat Ultraman and the Crime Syndicate. Despite being the creation of Luthor, B-Zero had a gentle heart and simply wished to enjoy the beauty of life and to make his father proud. Although imbued with Kryptonian-like powers, B-Zero was easily overpowered and killed by Ultraman, much to the grief of his father, who actually grew to love him. So while not an evil version of Superman, you have to admit, if this guy was running at you, you'd be pretty damn terrified. Like bro, get some skin cream, some moisturizer. You look like a rock gnome named Deborah Mustard, come on. Next thing you know, you're gonna try to control me with one word and then make me a little robot trinket that's gonna get stolen by a goblin who only wants to eat pigeons. And look, you may not understand that reference, but if you do, we're friends now, okay? And at 8, Bizarro. The original Bizarro was created when Superman was exposed to a duplicate ray, in accordance with the science fiction concepts of Superman's stories of the there was a lot of sci-fi going on with Superman. However, Bizarro relocated to the Bizarro world, a cuboidal planet called Htre, which is just Earth backwards, don't really know how to pronounce it, but it operated under Bizarro logic. So like it was a crime to do anything good, and basically since Bizarro was the invert of Superman, that Earth was also populated by inverts of other DC characters. The 1986 Event Crisis on Infinite Earths though rewrote DC's continuity, eliminating that Earth. Since then, 2 different Bizarro characters have appeared. One of them was a flawed clone created by Lex Luthor, and the second, the longer lasting Bizarro, was an idea of the Batman villain the Joker, brought to life by the cosmic trickster Mr. Mxyzptlk. He was first introduced in Superboy number 68 from 1958 though, and is even one of the coolest Superman versions there is, even if he's not always like actually Superman and rather like an experiment, but like whatever. And at 7, Justice Lord. For much of his life, Justice Lord's Superman background matched the Justice League counterpart, until President Lex Luthor executed the Flash. Soon after that, Superman stormed the White House, while his comrades battled the Secret Service. And as they were doing that, Superman confronted President Luthor in the Oval Office. Despite Superman's accusations of corruption and abuse of power, Luthor refused to surrender and arrogantly stated that he would find a way to get out of prison, or at least avoid being prosecuted to begin with. Superman declared that if being a hero meant that this feuding and fighting had to continue, then he was done with it, and then used his heat vision to execute the president on the spot, Shazam style. After President Luthor's assassination, the Justice Lords spent the next 2 years imposing their brand of peace on the Earth through harsh rule. Justice Lord Superman himself continued to use his heat vision to lobotomize all of Earth's criminals and supervillains. As a result, all of them became harmless, walking vegetables who obediently inhabited the world's prisons. Which, I mean, like, is a little tamer than some versions of Superman. Like, lobotomy or death. Honestly, I don't know which would be considered more evil. And at 6, Kingdom Come Superman. Yet another world where Lois Lane dies. Except this time it's directly at the hands of the Joker, who had flooded the Daily Planet with his toxin, killing everyone but Lois, who had managed to locate a gas mask. When trying to attack the Joker, however, Joker just turns around and cracks her right in the skull. Superman returns as Lois succumbs to her injuries and dies. And as for the Joker, he arrives for his trial, but he's killed by a new superhero going by Magog. However, Magog ends up getting acquitted of his charges after killing the Joker, which honestly I understand, but Superman is appalled by the public embracing a killer as a hero. Already disheartened at the death of Lois, Kal-El abandons his life as Superman and retreats to his Fortress of Solitude, where he spends the next decade. Superman eventually returns and reforms the Justice League though, with the goal of capturing heroes who took Magog's example and started killing, which results in many a battle and a nuke targeted towards metahuman genes, a la Invasion, the CW crossover. But in the end, Superman does end up dating Wonder Woman and they end up expecting a child. I mean, like, it took you a while, but you got over it. Attaboy. Halfway through in at number 5, Red Sun Superman. The Russian hero known as Superman is an alternate version of the hero we know now, from an alternate reality in which baby Kal-El landed not in Smallville but rather in Soviet Russia, where he was raised by the government. This Superman, while still a hero to Russia, is antithetical to the United States and has defeated some American heroes such as the Green Lantern. His arch nemesis though is still Lex Luthor, who at this point is a scientist employed by the US government to create heroes like Superman. Luthor's copied version of Superman, however, proves a failure and endangers more lives. Bizarro. Luthor created many monsters to battle Superman, but they all didn't really do anything. This version is just scary because, like, it's what every American fears. Communism. And honestly, with some of the other characters on this list and what they did to the human race, on this earth, I'm surprised that Russia hasn't used Superman to just destroy everything. Like, whatever. However, this story is a good lesson about who you keep in your life and how people around you affect who you turn out to be. So, there's that, at least. And at 4, Reverse Flashpoint Superman. In Tales from the Dark Multiverse 1 Flashpoint, we see a world where Barry died when trying to get his speed back with Thomas Wayne after creating Flashpoint. This leads to Reverse Flash claiming to be the Flash and then trying to get the war with the Atlanteans and Amazons to stop by threatening them. Obviously, this doesn't work out so well, so in an effort to save himself, Reverse Flash races through time, changing the events to create the world exactly how he wants it, with Barry not being able to stop him, which involves saving not only Bruce Wayne, but Martha and Thomas Wayne as well, resulting in a world without a Batman. On the final page of the issue, we see Eobard with all the new heroes he ended up creating and convincing them to join him, as we can tell by the Reverse Flash symbols on their suits. Even Green Lanterns and Wonder Woman has one. This page also has a Superman, and honestly, sick suit, but being controlled, or I guess led by the Reverse Flash, makes this utterly horrifying to think about, especially when you can see the other members of the Flash family racing behind Reverse Flash. He finally got what he wanted. Eobard Thawne became the Flash. Getting close to the end, and in number 3, Ultraman. A member of the crime syndicate, an evil version of the Justice League that terrorized its Earth, that being Earth 3, Ultraman is basically the opposite to Superman. His real name, well, his real human name, is Clark Luthor, and is the adopted son of Lionel Luthor from Earth 2. Ultraman is Kal-El, with 2 L's, who comes from a version of Krypton whose people are mean-spirited and selfish. Unlike other incarnations, they gain power when exposed to green kryptonite. Just before his Krypton was destroyed, Kal-El's parents, Jor-El and Lara, sent him to Earth 3 to one day seek vengeance against the being that destroyed Krypton, teaching him to become the strongest being on the planet or to become nothing at all. Upon his arrival on Earth 3, the young Kal-El coerced a couple of young alcoholic substance addicts, Johnny and Martha Kent, to adopt him, only to murder them years later once he no longer needed them. He went on to found the crime syndicate and take over the world. This guy is a homicidal, violent megalomaniac with mommy and daddy issues. However, he's definitely a character I want to see on the big screen. Please. Penultimately, and at number 2, Overman. Overman is an alternate version of Superman from a different world in the multiverse, obviously, but unlike other versions of Superman, his primary language is German. This is because on this Earth, the German soldiers won World War II, to speak around the YouTube censors, eventually taking over the planet and spreading German everywhere, as in like the language. Another Overman first appeared in Grant Morrison's Animal Man number 23. He is one among several pre-crisis characters that were returned to reality by the Psycho Pirate's Medusa mask. This Overman comes from an Earth based around the grim and gritty stories of the 1980s, and the heroes of this universe were actually a part of an experiment created by the government. Overman... This has got to be one of the most ridiculous points that I saw, but Overman went mad and destructive after contracting an STD. Not even kidding. And the other inhabitants of this Earth were a black and muscular Wonder Woman, an unnamed Flash, and a punk-style Green Lantern. Psycho Pirate pointed out how ridiculous this universe is, but I mean, come on, it's still pretty terrifying. And Overgirl was ruthless on Crisis on Earth X, okay? Finally, and at number 1, Injustice. Injustice is probably one of the most popular alternate Earth stories of this generation. Thanks to the Mortal Kombat-inspired fighting game by the same name, this is an Earth where Joker managed to trick Superman into thinking that he was fighting Doomsday when he was actually killing his wife Lois Lane. That was already bad enough since we know how Superman gets in other worlds when his wife dies. However, this time she was also carrying his unborn child, which he only found out after accidentally killing her. This sent Superman into a fit of rage and caused him to kill the Joker while Batman was intimidating him, much to Batman's dismay. This one action caused Superman to go absolutely berserk and to do the one thing that Batman and everyone else feared: use his power and become the governor of the world. Through this regime, Superman killed anyone who committed a crime, resulting in Batman leading a resistance of other superheroes, not all of whom made it. While the story in the video games remains largely the same of that of the comics it generated, there are a few differences, like the amount of deaths in the comics, since none of them are really playable characters, so losing them won't really affect your gameplay experience. Either way, the scariest version of Superman we've seen today, although almost tied with the one who was using guns.
Kicking off the list at number 10, the Nail. Created by Alan Davis, this version of Superman is Amish. Hot start, that's right. After he survived the destruction of Krypton, baby Kal-El was then sent to Earth in order to survive. The origin story for Superman gets a little strange when Martha and John Kent got a flat tire before departing for Smallville that day. Hence the name The Nail. Now we're putting it together. There we go. So the lovebirds end up staying in for the night. Martha says she's in the mood just to stay home, and John agrees. So now instead the super infant was found by an Amish couple. Now he's raised a good lad, but he's disconnected from the world. He's churning butter, not checking Twitter. He has no clue he's a Kryptonian. So in turn, we get to see a Justice League with no Superman, and the world is a hot mess. Lex salvaged Kal-El's spaceship after he landed, so he used that tech to create an evil version of Jimmy Olsen. But when Super Jimmy is fighting the Justice League, the fight moves to Amish Kal-El's backyard, and that's when he discovers his true powers. He always had a feeling he was superpowered, he just didn't really know. So he bids farewell to his Amish folks, and then he unleashes the power of a god. What a day. Number 9. Injustice Superman. This comic run began back in 2013. Injustice Gods Among Us issue 1. Brought to us from the minds of Tom Taylor and Jeremy Rapak, comes this dark alternate reality where Lois Lane was kidnapped by the Joker. So he goes on this hunt with the help of the Justice League, tearing submarines apart, looking for his love, but as issue 4 begins, so do the streams of our tears. Lois Lane gets killed, and in turn Superman goes bat insane. He couldn't even stick around. He gave the body to Wonder Woman, and then shoom, he just flew off. Green Lantern tried to talk to him a little bit, saying, you know, you're hurt, you're angry, yada yada yada, just slow down. But Superman wasn't having it. He had something better on his mind. Batman's face says it all during this scene. Superman tells Batman during his dark ruling days that he learned the idea of enforcing peace through fear from Batman himself. I see no lie here. And before we continue on with this list, if you want to go ahead and give this video a thumbs up, that would be super helpful for us at Top 10 Nerd. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for your support. And let's not waste any time and get you right back into this list. Number 8. Kingdom Come Superman. Shifting over to an alternate reality with an older Justice League, this Superman isn't as ruthless, but take that with a grain of salt. Kal-El of Earth 22 made his first punch into DC Comics with Kingdom Come issue 1. Now this is a version where Lois Lane still did perish, only before her untimely demise she made Superman promise to her that he would not kill the Joker in retaliation, so a little bit different this time. So he followed through and simply had the clown arrested. But this new superhero named Magog made their debut, and then they in turn ended up killing the Joker. Magog was obviously put on trial because, you know, killing's bad and all that stuff, but he was acquitted. The general public was like, oh, the Joker? Yeah, that guy was horrible. Thanks, great work. I could take the bus without having a panic attack now. Lovely, sounds wonderful, keep it up. Superman had to then rethink a lot after this. I mean, the public is now okay with killing villains. What does this world even come to? He's been letting these guys live, and in turn they've broken free over and over again, and then continued killing innocents over and over again. So he then just disappears to the Fortress of Solitude for a bit, observing without intervening. Now he did return less than a decade later, but the world had fallen into a societal depression. So with a new suit, older Clark Kent returned to the League, ready to once again enforce a code of ethics. Number 7. Calvin Ellis. When a comic book hints at a past president of the United States, it's usually pretty comical. For example, in Harley Quinn and Her Gang of Harleys issue 5, we meet Harley's Sin, and her father looks and acts a little bit like Donald Trump. It's a ride. Now Calvin Ellis, on the other hand, was written by Grant Morrison to be based off Barack Obama and Muhammad Ali. So a much better person and role model, I'd say, just right off the bat. Earth 23 Superman President Ellis made his first appearance in DC Comics with Final Crisis issue 7. Kal-El was raised by the Ellis family, teaching him to always stand up for himself no matter what, and to fight for what he believes in no matter what bullies stand in your way. Little more optimistic and useful than the Amish family, I'd say, just a tad. Can I churn butter? Or can I like save people? No, just churning butter? Alright, great. Number 6, Ultraman. Coming from Earth 3, originally Earth 2 in the comics, Ultraman is the evil version of Superman. Always fun, even if it's dark. Appropriately named Clark Luthor, he gets more power the more kryptonite he's exposed to. So if you see him dipping some crystals and licking them, you know, you gotta hit the deck. And the design is pretty much the same, only instead of a hopeful S on his chest, Ultraman rocks a U. The angrier Ultraman gets, the stronger he also gets. So usually a play on opposites are fun in comics. This one's just borderline terrifying. Number 5, Red Sun Superman. Superman Red Sun was released in 2003 from the mind of Mark Millar, part of the Elseworlds imprint. And we ask, what if Superman had been raised in the Soviet Union? I just watched Black Widow, we saw like a Russian Captain America, great stuff. Now we're talking about Russian Superman. That's why we're here, folks, let's do it. The ship lands on a Ukrainian collective farm instead of Texas, and this idea had been floating around in Millar's mind since he was a 6-year-old. Back when he read Superman issue 300, it showed the USA and the USSR rushing to claim the fallen Super Sun when he landed in neutral waters. Now, Mark Millar always wondered what it would be like if the other guys ended up getting to him first, an idea that subsequently earned Millar an Eisner Award nomination in 2004 for Best Limited Series, so you must check it out. Number 4, Superman Parallax. In Superman Volume 4, Issue 29, written by Keith Champagne, we see Superman on the search for missing children from Metropolis, but when Superman follows a lead, he's greeted from fear himself at an abandoned hospital. Parallax and Superman fight it out, but realizing he has no other choice, Superman offers himself up to the Dark Force. The only being that can save Earth at this point after is Sinestro, a powerful alternate, perhaps one of the scariest. You be the judge. Number 3, Lara Lane Kent Supergirl. This next version of Supes looks a lot like the version that we're going to get in the new Flash movie, so I had to throw her in there to get the gears spinning a bit. She's the daughter of Superman and Lois Lane. She appeared for the first time in Injustice Gods Among Us Year 3 storyline. Now, in Zack Snyder's Justice League, we learn that Lois Lane is indeed pregnant, and the following sequels would have shown us a world without Lois. So perhaps this Flash film will show us this bright alternate world where Batman has killed the Joker and Supergirl grows up with both of her parents' guidance. She looks pretty badass too. Now, these are just set photos, but the similarities are wild. To see for yourself, check out Injustice Year 3, starting with issue 6 or 7. I think she comes in around there. Number 2, Superboy Prime. This version of Superman has more powers and less weaknesses. I'm talking immunity to kryptonite and magic. He first appeared in DC Comics Presents issue 87, where Kal-El landed on Earth and was discovered by Jerry and Naomi Kent while they were on a hike in the New England seacoast town. They named him Clark, although Clark Kent was the name of a popular comic book hero, Superman. So yeah, he already existed on this Earth Prime. Now, Clark grew up and later attended a costume beach party, which I gotta say, tights plus sand, really? It's not the best idea, I don't know. They went to get a glimpse of Halley's Comet by the beach. It sounds great. Clark even dressed up like Superboy, although he was being teased. And then all of a sudden a tidal wave hits, a portal opens, and the Superman pops out from another dimension. Now at the same time, Clark's powers manifested and he quickly learned what to do with them in the moment. Superboy followed that Superman back into the portal to his reality. Unbeknownst to him though, he would never come back. That is until he decides to later punch reality apart. Number 1, Superman Prime. Superman of the 853rd century. He's literally a living extension of the sun at this point in time, so we gotta finish with him. He left Earth way back in the late 21st century once everybody he cared about passed away. Okay, he's like, oh, she's dead? Peace. What about the millions of others you could help? I don't know. There's other people. Meet other people. Go on Hinge. I don't know. He traveled beyond space and time after that, literally reaching heaven and hell, and he made his first appearance in DC 1 Million issue 4. So after soaking up the sun for 15,000 years straight, Superman obtained new abilities. He's more powerful than the gravitational pull of a collapsing star, and is many, many times faster than the speed of light. He's so powerful that he has some energy to spare. One of those new abilities is to share his power with others. A small amount, but still, that's far beyond any other metahuman at that point ever. You thought Superman was godlike before. This guy can literally smell you across the universe. And that's not even a joke. It's called superhuman olfaction. It's a real thing. He can smell trouble across black holes.
Number 10. Red Sun Superman. Answer me this, have you ever wondered what would happen if Superman didn't have that good and wholesome upbringing and was raised somewhere else, like, I don't know, let's say the Soviet Union? Well, wonder no longer, because that is exactly what happens in the comic book miniseries Superman Red Sun. Instead of his ship crash landing in Kansas, Superman lands in the Ukraine in the middle of the Cold War. In the story, Superman is raised with the ideals that the Soviet Union instills in him, and the world feels a sense of fear as a superpowered alien is the Soviets' new secret weapon. He still has all the powers you associate with Superman because he is still exposed to the yellow sun. With the passion and sense of justice we've come to expect from Superman, Soviet Superman was so dedicated to his country, which made him incredibly dangerous for the wrong reasons, because he was a living weapon that the Soviets used to spread their power throughout the globe. Over the course of about 20 years, he traveled the world with Wonder Woman, converting other nations and even becoming their new leader. He was a good leader, don't get me wrong, because he is still Superman, it was just for a very bad world. Highly recommend you check out this alternate Superman for yourself, starting with 2003's Superman Red Sun Volume 1, Number 1. Number 9. Ultraman. Similar to our Superman's origin story, this iteration was sent from the planet Krypton to Earth 3. However, it's not really stated why, since Krypton didn't explode in this universe. On his way to Earth 3, he first came into contact with kryptonite, which started the change in his body that turned him into the superpowered powerhouse that we know. And since then, every time he came in contact with kryptonite, he only grew stronger. After becoming an adult, he renamed himself Ultraman, and this is where he vastly differs from our Superman, because he became a brutal authoritarian and ruthlessly rules his version of the Justice League called the Crime Syndicate, conquering most of the world with their help. After largely conquering most of the world, Ultraman developed a new type of supervision that allowed him to see into the Earth 1 dimension. Seeking an open battle to test their powers after defeating the military forces of their native Earth 3, the Crime Syndicate challenged the combined forces of the Earth 1 Justice League of America and Earth 2 Justice Society of America. Not able to withstand the combined might of two Earth's greatest super beings, the Crime Syndicate was defeated and imprisoned in an extra-dimensional bubble created by the Earth 1 Green Lantern. Ultraman is a perfect example of someone who has all the power but isn't happy. Hailing from an Earth where evil always wins, Ultraman is always looking for something new to conquer, torment, or honestly both. Check him out for yourself, starting with his first appearance all the way back in 1964's Justice League of America number 29. Number 8. Overman. Hailing from Earth 10, a universe where the Germans won World War II, we have Overman, the leader of the new Reichman and the Superman of this Earth. Kal-El was sent to Earth 10 as a baby in a ship away from the planet Krypton because it was dying. Pretty standard Superman origin, however, much like the Red Sun Superman, he was raised by the wrong people. Alongside the German forces, Overman conquered the world in, I want to say, less than 20 years, after which he decided to leave the Earth for a while. 3 years later, he returned with a clear head and saw all the damage he helped cause and became an advocate against all of what he once stood for, while still working alongside them for some reason. Eventually, German scientists used Kal-Cells to create a clone of him known as Overgirl that Overman learned to love like family. However, she died not too long after her creation, and that hit him hard. Inconsolable and grief-stricken, Overman leaked some precious information to the freedom fighters that resulted in the demise of the new Reichman and Metropolis. Check out probably one of the saddest Superman stories I've ever heard of, starting with 2015's The Multiversity Guidebook number 1. Number 7. The Eradicator. Existing on New Earth, the Eradicator was an ancient Kryptonian weapon merged with a human body to form the last son of Krypton, an extreme vigilante who surfaced after the death of Superman. The Eradicator was given to Superman while on Warworld, and it began its work again on Earth, creating the Fortress of Solitude and trying to manipulate Superman into becoming the ideal Kryptonian. When it failed, the Eradicator created a new body for itself based on Superman. The Eradicator had all of Superman's memories, even though it wasn't actually the real Superman, but was far more brutal and violent. It didn't actually have the power to absorb solar radiation, so it relied on Superman's body to transfer energy to it. Over the years, it became more compassionate and even fought alongside Superman in a few fights, the most notable being their fight against Cyborg Superman, and even sacrificed itself to save Earth, but it always remained dedicated to preserving Superman and Kryptonian life. In DC's Rebirth continuity, the Eradicator has returned and it's just as dangerous as ever, so why not take a look at the Superman clone story for yourself, starting with their first appearance in 1989's Action Comics Annual number 2 all the way to 2011's Action Comics number 901. Number 6. Black Zero. This is actually the third Black Zero. This was an alternate version of Superboy known as Superman 2 from a hyper-time stream in which Superman had not returned to life and his clone had been left to fully mature and develop his full Kryptonian powers in addition to some tactile telekinesis. With this new power, he could create a field around himself that made him invulnerable, allowed him to fly, and also move heavy objects, similar to Superman's strength. Superman 2 tried to fight crime but ended up losing a battle that cost its life, leading to a backlash against human cloning. He decided to rename himself after the pro-cloning organization on Krypton, Black Zero, and fight for clone rights. He used Project Cadmus to kill off most of the world's superheroes and recreated most of them as clones of the originals, but that wasn't enough for him. He entered Hypertime, a cross between a time stream and the multiverse during an era where DC Comics only consisted of one universe, to travel to other realities to fight for clone rights as well. Black Zero was a fanatical and ruthless warrior who was eventually and thankfully stopped by the combined strength of numerous Superboys from across Hypertime. Appearing across only a few issues, this is a short story that is definitely worth a read, so if you feel like it, check out 1999 Superboy Volume 4, number 61 to 64. Number 5. Super Doom. After a trip to Tibet, Clark, Lois Lane, and Jimmy Olsen built a machine that used vibrations to bring thoughts into reality, and the best possible use for it in their eyes was to create a Superman that was a thought-powered redeemer capable of saving the world. Unfortunately, they ended up having to sell the machine to Overcorp, and Overcorp took their Superman idea and twisted it so much that the brutal and toxic Super Doom was born. A self-described killer franchise, Super Doom wasted no time in becoming the preeminent superhuman of its world, and sought out to eliminate any form of competition, meaning he was on the hunt for other Supermen. After ravaging countless parallel planets and butchering numerous Superman and Superman-like adjacent people, it finally tracked down its creators to Earth-23, where it killed Jimmy and mortally wounded Clark. Later, Super Doom was summoned to Prime Earth by an unwilling Lex Luthor as a final doomsday weapon against Superman, and after a brutal struggle, Superman overcame the monster, which, upon defeat, transformed into a bomb that Superman managed to place on the dark side of the moon before detonation, seemingly annihilating Super Doom once and for all. Give the story a read for yourself, starting with 2012's Action Comics Volume 2, number 9. Number 4. Superman Earth 1198. In Superman the Dark Side, the baby Kal-El ship is diverted on its path to Earth and instead lands on the planet Apokolips, home of the Overlord Darkseid. In this version of Superman, Darkseid is the one to raise him, and Superman becomes his loyal and devoted disciple and helps him in the destruction of New Genesis. As well as this, Superman doesn't grow up to wear tights and a cape. Instead, he opts for a menacing black and red armor with a lightning bolt S across his chest. Not only is this Superman powerful, evil, and terrifying, he also has a thing for weapons, using the Apocalypsean sword and Omega Warhead, as well as anything he can get his hands on. Superman in this story is more of a pawn for Darkseid than inherently evil, but much like the others, his actions have horrific consequences. With his direct and indirect help, Darkseid managed to extract the anti-life equation from Superman's cells and subjugated the world and expanded his reach. With Earth by his side and a yellow sun to power him up, Superman was forced to fight Darkseid to end his reign of terror. Highly recommend you check out this 3-issue run for yourself, starting with 1998 Superman Darkseid number 1. Number 3. Cyborg Superman. Now, there have been two major characters that have become Cyborg Superman. The first and most famous is the astronaut Hank Henshaw. When a solar flare hit Henshaw's spacecraft during a space experiment, he and his crew started to mutate. The mutation was so strong that once back on Earth, Henshaw's crew, along with his wife, all committed suicide. Before Henshaw's body disintegrates from the solar flare, he is able to upload his mind using NASA equipment. With the help of the birthing matrix that was used to send Superman to Earth, Henshaw creates a cyborg body with all the powers that Superman has. After this, Henshaw finds out that Superman had thrown the Eradicator into the sun, which caused the original solar flare. Blaming Superman for everything, the newly formed Cyborg Superman seeks revenge on the Man of Steel. To destroy the real Superman's reputation, Cyborg Superman tried to use a nuclear bomb to destroy Metropolis. He was defeated because that's what happens when you go up against Superman, but used his powers to inhabit machines to return over and over and over again, once even conquering most of the planet Apokolips. After his ultimate defeat, he was taken in by Sinestro during the Sinestro Corps War, making him even more powerful than ever. Since the New 52 era, Cyborg Superman has been revamped as having been the father of Supergirl, Zor-El, who survived Krypton's destruction only to have been transformed into the villain he is today. Why not give Hank's story a read for yourself, starting with 1990's Adventures of Superman number 466. Number 2. Lord Superman. This alternate Superman doesn't have any roots with comics. He is actually from the Justice League TV series, specifically 2003's episode A Better World, and is one of the first Dark Superman that we've seen in the animated universe. This Superman lost his way in battle with President Lex Luthor after Luthor executed the Flash in front of him, and mocked the Man of Steel for never being able to see things through to their logical conclusion. Superman, overcome with rage, executed Luthor with his heat vision, took over the world with his Justice League's help, and formed the Justice Lord's crime-free regiment. They saw themselves as the world's saviors, and the terror was a small price to pay to realize their vision. Of course, when they found an alternate Earth, they immediately imagined all the quote-unquote good they could have done there, and Lord Superman's incredible powers would have let him succeed on this new Earth if it weren't for the regular Superman, who managed to defeat the Justice Lord before it was too late. I think the worst thing about Justice Lord Superman is that he truly thought he was doing the right thing, but we all know for a fact that he wasn't. Check out this two-part episode for yourself and let me know what you think in the comments below. And finally, number 1, Injustice Superman. Before I dive more into this one, I have to say that I love the Injustice games so much. I remember when I first got the game and I did not put it down until I was finished with the story, so comment below who your go-to character is. In Injustice 1, I'd have to say mine is either Nightwing or Batman, but in Injustice 2, it has to be Green Arrow or Scarecrow. Anyways, sorry about that, let's talk about Injustice Superman. In a storyline amalgamated from diverse comic plots along with the Justice League animated two-parter, A Better World, that I just talked about, the Joker sadistically fear-gasses Superman into killing Lois Lane. Superman responds by putting his open hand straight through the clown's chest and turns the world into a dictatorship-like police state. In the process, he doxes Batman, murders Shazam and Martian Manhunter, converts the Justice League into his personal secret police, and gets his butt kicked by Alfred Pennyworth. He's finally defeated by a still good Superman from another universe who encases him in a red sunlight generating capsule. Now, there have been a few storylines over the years that have revolved around the idea of what would happen if Superman went bad and whether anyone could stop him, and this just proves that the only man who can take down Superman is Superman himself. Why not play the games again for yourself to refresh your memory, or check out 2013's Injustice Gods Among Us #1.
And at 10, faked Clark Kent's death. Jesus, there's a lot wrong with this number already, and we're only at number 10. Oh boy, this is bound to be a fun list. Starting off, Superman wasn't really a good person. He was nowhere near the perfect cookie cutter guy that we know today. He was actually quite toxic to Lois when things first started. Case in point, Superman's girlfriend Lois Lane. This 137 issue story features a lot of questionable moments, but one of these things is when Lois Lane disguised herself as the French actress Lois Laflamme so that she could get close to a foreign dignitary for an interview. Superman decides that he has to teach her a lesson for using such tactics in the pursuit of a story, so he falls for Lois Laflamme as Clark Kent. When she rejects his marriage proposal, he pretends to kill himself right in front of her by jumping off a building just to make Lois feel bad. Although he claims that he's doing it as well because he needs to change into his Superman costume in midair because one of the rooms in the hotel they were on was robbed that day, but I think we all know the only reason why he did it. And at 9, prosecutes Lois. In issues 99 and 100 of Superman's girlfriend Lois Lane, we see Lois be charged with the murder of Lana Lang. Lois gets into an argument with Lana Lang when they were secretly both invited to a talk show in Gotham City to talk about how much they know Superman during Superman Appreciation Day. I don't know why they're celebrating Superman in Gotham since he hardly did there, but whatever. But on the drive home, Lois and Lana get into a car crash, but only Lois makes it out alive. Batman ends up defending her in court for some reason. I really don't know why. I doubt he passed the bar. But with Batman defending her, the DA's office figures that the only man who can defeat Batman in court is Superman. Thus, he becomes a special prosecutor and prosecutes the love of his life. I mean, he was like forced to do it, but still, what the actual hell is going on with the series? And at 8, killed Lois. While the classic "Oh, Superman killed Lois" scene is typically pulled from the Injustice series, where Supes is tricked into killing that Lois and their unborn son by thinking they're actually Doomsday thanks to a special breed of Joker gas, I'd rather talk about the other time Lois gets killed because of Superman. By getting her pregnant. Yeah, that's right. You thought Spider-Man was the only one who had issues getting women pregnant with his radioactive swimmers? Well, the Man of Steel and the Woman of Kleenex are certainly not as good at match as some may think, considering how in Adventures of Superman Annual number 3, Lois gets pregnant and is then killed by the baby after getting a superpowered Kryptonian kick from inside the womb. Or at the very least a future version of her does, which either way is still messed up as hell. Even if you didn't think it would happen, I mean, like, you kinda need to expect something like that. To be fair, the baby had also not really been exposed to the sun directly, so maybe he shouldn't have had powers to begin with, but I mean, like, couldn't they just have kept Lois in like a chamber with a red sun or something? I mean, I don't know, there were ways to avoid it. And at 7, desecrates Lois's grave. Yeah, that's not even the worst part about this issue, it gets worse. After finding out that Lois is going to die from their baby, Superman tried to kill himself by flying into space as far as he could from Earth. But when he does, he meets an alien warrior princess named Maxima, who he then proceeds to hook up with on Lois's grave. which is probably the most disrespectful thing you can do on your former lover's grave, I'd think. Especially when the headstone has a line from you that reads "There can only be you," and a wreath that you had left presumably earlier that day, at least. Or if not, earlier that week. But like, yeah. That's probably one of the most problematic covers ever that features Superman, especially at the point that it was released. I'm sure that there's been problematic things since, but oh. And at 6, Eviction. In Superman's 8th ever appearance in Action Comics number 8, he didn't seem to really have a grip on the whole how to be a good guy thing. Since after a group of kids commits a crime to join a gang, Superman takes the gang out thinking that it will save the kids. But they don't want to reform, they just want to keep being bad. Probably because the whole like the gang is the only people who care about me kind of thing or something like that, right? That's usually the line. Well, want to know how Superman fixes that? Not by sending them to jail or getting the cops to take him for some kind of scared straight thing. No, he instead gets an idea from a hurricane and starts tearing the poor neighborhood apart. Yeah, thinking that when he's done, the town will be rid of its quote, filthy crime-festering slums. I mean, I guess it kinda worked in a way since the government ends up rebuilding modern apartment units there that are definitely too expensive for the previous residents. So the crime does leave because the people have to leave as well. Huh. Halfway through in at number 5, Exposed Batman. While this seems like something that any version of Superman would do if they turned bad, it's actually interesting to see that only the Injustice version of Superman did it. Yeah, after getting fed up with Batman leading the resistance against his totalitarian regime, Superman tells the world that Batman is really Bruce Wayne. How does he do this, you ask? Like a press conference or like a worldwide news message or video maybe? Nope, none of the above. This dude frickin' outs him on Twitter. Superman, in just 4 simple words, tells the world that Batman is Bruce Wayne. Using those 4 words, actually. From the official Superman Twitter account, by the way. Dude doesn't even use his Clark Kent Twitter. Man, he's still hiding behind his identity, but then decides to out Bruce's. It's a damn shame. With over 2.5 million retweets and over 3.5 million favorites, this was certainly number 1 on trending for sure. At least until Kim K posted a pic in like a Batman costume to capitalize on the news, pushing the actual Bruce Wayne as Batman thing to number 2 on trending. That's probably what would have happened. Let's be honest. And at 4, World War II propaganda. When World War II was ongoing, a load of the population turned to superheroes to provide hope. This is where we got Captain America and more. But this also turned Superman into the noble American hero that we know him for today. However, that caused him to be a little more on the prejudice side of things in his material. It was mostly to encourage able-bodied men to enlist and others to buy war bonds to fund their soldiers. But my question is, why did you have to lean so hard into the whole race thing? Really, DC? Like, Superman was literally printing posters that said things like, Superman says you can slap a Japanese soldier with war bonds and stamps, with a very stereotypical drawing on them as well as some offensive slurs. So yeah, that's pretty messed up. They also did this to avoid having Superman just like straight up end the war, because like, let's be honest, if he was fighting, there would be no war. They came up with various excuses for it too, like Clark Kent accidentally using his X-ray vision to read the wrong eye chart while trying to enlist, resulting in him being rejected. Getting close to the end, in at number 3, made a film with his friend's wife. A lot of people make fun of the adult film industry, okay? But honestly, it's the backbone of the economy, at least in some cases. However, Superman has never shied away from helping small business owners, especially in Action Comics number 592 and 593. That's right, before Kim K had her go at it, Superman tried the whole celebrity tape thing, with the help of a character named Sleaze, one of Darkseid's former enforcers. Superman tracks down a missing new god, Big Barda, to Metropolis' roughest neighborhood, the Suicide Slum. There, Superman discovers that not only has Barda been brainwashed by Sleaze, but the Apocalypse native is using her to produce a line of popular adult films. Superman tries to rescue her, but ultimately falls under Sleaze's control as well. And Sleaze does exactly what you would expect. He becomes sleazy. He takes Barda and Superman to the local videographer and makes some naughty videos. Then her husband walks in. It's certainly an interesting couple issues. Penultimately, in at number 2, Executioner. Nowadays, Superman doesn't really kill, aside from a few moments, Man of Steel and Injustice most notably. However, there wasn't really an origin for this moral code. We just kind of assumed that he was a good guy that didn't want to kill. However, writer John Byrne wanted to answer that unasked question in Superman number 22, one of the most controversial Superman stories ever. In this issue, Superman finds himself in a pocket dimension where a group of 3 Kryptonian soldiers had wiped out all life on Earth, with the exception of Bruce Wayne, Lex Luthor, and a synthetic life form that was calling itself Supergirl. They try to fight the criminals, but they're not really a match for them, which results in Supes taking some unexpected actions. He exposes the group, which also included an alternate reality version of General Zod, to golden kryptonite of their world, resulting in them permanently losing their powers, and him keeping his since it wasn't kryptonite from his world, it was from their pocket dimension. But Zod still threatens Superman and says that he'll track him down and destroy his Earth, even though he literally has no powers. But instead of just abandoning them on a dead planet, Supes thinks that that's not enough, so then he kills them with kryptonite. However, he is still grief-stricken and then promises that he will never kill again. My question is, why'd you have to pull out the green kryptonite if you already took away their powers? Couldn't you just have like... Finally, and at number 1, ruled the world. Oh boy. Usually when people talk about ruling the world and Superman, they talk about Injustice again. And while this is a great story and an example of what can go wrong with superheroes, the story of King of the World is also a good cautionary tale about Superman. In the late 90s, this story featured a series of prophetic dreams that make Superman realize that his regular MO, just flying around and waiting for disasters to happen, isn't really working. And Kal-El decides to be a little more proactive. However, to him that means building a series of spy satellites to survey Earth, helping Superman keep track of everything that's happening at once, all over the globe, and giving up his life as Clark Kent to work as Superman full time. Sleep deprived and losing his grip on humanity, as well as his sanity, Superman starts to interfere more and more with Earth's affairs, toppling extremist governments and even changing the weather. But when he realizes that he can't be everywhere at once because, you know, it's the whole world, the Man of Steel deploys an army of Superman robots to help maintain law and order, effectively making Superman a benevolent dictator. Only snapping out of it when he gets a kiss from Lois Lane. This is what happened, okay? This is what No Nut November will do to the weak-minded, okay? Superman wouldn't stand a chance. Also, I find it funny how he made flying robots, because the Man of Steel made Men of Steel.
Kicking off the list at number 10, we have Dawnbreaker. This version of Bruce Wayne first appeared in Dark Days The Casting, issue 1, residing in, of course, the Dark Multiverse on Earth 32. The story picks up with the usual Bruce Wayne origins. His parents are both taken out by Joe Chill that night, but here young Bruce Wayne comes into contact with a Green Lantern ring. So Bruce approaches Joe and he's pretty pissed at this point. He's going for blood right off the bat. He ended up turning Joe Chill into bones and dust. And then when Bruce met Gordon, they got off on the wrong foot initially as well. Gordon greets him and he's like, Green Lantern, wasn't sure you'd show up. And then Bruce straight up's like, hey man, don't threaten me. Really awkward vibes, just quick awkward vibes right off the bat, no friendship there. He was taking out Gotham's villains super quick. Each time he did it, he would scream and yell about how much his parents deserved to not be dead. He flew the Penguin into outer space. That's how you handle a guy right there. You take him and you go, right off planet. Okay, so with all of these brutal assassinations, the rest of the Green Lanterns knew they had to come and put a stop to this madness. Only it wasn't that easy. Bruce destroyed all of them. He executed the entire Guardians of the Universe. Beware his power, Dawnbreaker's might. And before we continue on with this list, if you want to go ahead and give us a thumbs up, that would be awesome. It helps our channel out and the studio quite a bit. You guys are super supportive. Thank you so much. Click, 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 and then we'll continue. Okay, let's do it. Number 9, Speeding Bullets Batman. There's a name. This Elseworlds storyline showed us what would happen if Kal-El's ship did not crash land in Smallville, but rather it landed in Gotham. So when the inevitable did happen and his parents were attacked and killed that night, Bruce Wayne, real named Kal-El, used his alien powers and unwillingly killed the robbers. His powers just came out in the form of heat vision. Toast. They didn't make it at all. No chance. And after this point, Bruce Wayne wasn't the same. He was ruthless. He had the powers of a god and so much anger, guilt, and pain inside. He had no idea what to do with this. So he would just repeat over and over, the bullets, the bullets, the bullets. Like he was in bad shape mentally. He hid from the world in his mansion of solitude, and he couldn't even look at photos of anything related to death as it was super triggering. And then one night, a group of robbers tried to invade said house, but again, heat vision wins this round. Didn't make it. A little older and a little wiser, Kal-El decided that now is time to use his powers to get the job done. Help out, you know, be a role model. He took up the identity of the Batman, but still, just because he rocked the cape doesn't mean he was doing all the right things. For example, when Lois Lane was kicked out of Lex Luthor's limo later on, she was about to be attacked by thugs, but Batman came in and burned their flesh while splintering their bones. Or you could fly them to jail. Or vaporize their eyes. That works too. You can vaporize their eyes. That's sure, that gets the job done. Number 8, Darkclaw. Veering out of the dark multiverse for a hot minute, we have to talk about Darkclaw. Coming from the Amalgam universe, where DC and Marvel combined powers, literally, we get a Wolverine-Batman mix. He first appeared in Legends of the Darkclaw issue 1 back in 1996, and his origin story is a hot mess. At just age 5, Logan Wayne witnessed the death of his parents. The usual stuff, but then he was sent to live with his uncle in Alberta, Canada. Better bring a jacket. It's cold. His uncle too bit the bullet after poachers ambushed him. So Logan Wayne enlisted in the Royal Canadian Air Force when he was of age, and shortly after was submitted into the Weapon X program. So much Amalgam fun. There Logan got the adamantium treatment, but the Weapon X program was terminated because it was deemed a failure. Why, you ask? Logan Wayne still retained his conscience. So where to go next but to travel the world? Logan studied abroad. He studied a variety of crime-fighting skills in his time. He studied criminology, forensics, martial arts, gymnastics, you name it. This guy learned all 127 major styles of combat. And yes, Thumb Wars is included. You never know, you never know. That mixed with Wolverine's abilities, I mean, you're screwed. Good game. Number 7, 1800s Batman. Batman Gotham by Gaslight, a tale of the Batman, written by Brian Augustin and brought to life by Mike Mignola. Here comes a tale from the Victorian era where Batman is hunting down Jack the Ripper. So it's 1889, and while these attacks are happening over and over, the general public is starting to whisper through the winds and talk amongst themselves in the shadows that maybe, just maybe, it's Batman who is committing these crimes because, well, he's dressed like that. Pretty fair assumption. We love some Victorian drama. Let's get spooky. So we get historic killers here, we get old-timey gangs, Bruce gets framed. It's an entirely new version of Batman, but it's an older take on the Caped Crusader. To see Batman purely rely on his detective skills more than anything makes for a really enjoyable story. I mean, there's no crazy gadgets or cool Batmobile that flicks him up a building. He's just like, I got it, I'm a detective, let's do this. Steampunk Batman for the win. It got the feature film treatment in 2018 with Sam Liu directing, so if you're looking for an old-timey superhero animated flick with Jack the Ripper, there you go. Just made your day. What do you know? Number 6, Thomas Wayne. Coming from the Flashpoint storyline released back in 2011, written by Jeff Johns and Andy Kubert, Thomas Wayne, Bruce's father, was actually the one to become Batman in this timeline. Now in this universe, Bruce Wayne was the one who got shot that fateful night and he bit the bullet. The world of Flashpoint is this altered reality where Barry accidentally ends up in, where Batman is older and much more violent. And not so much as a detective like Bruce. See, what happened was, in this alternate reality, Bruce's mother, Martha, is so traumatized that she becomes the Joker. That's why during the opening credits of Batman vs Superman, we were all pumped in the theater because Jeffrey Dean Morgan and Lauren Cohen, two amazing actors, were in such a small opening scene as Bruce's parents, with zero dialogue. Now with recent set photos of Michael Keaton in the new Flash movie, we're still in for a great time, but we were so close to the best Flash movie with Jeffrey Dean Morgan as a dark Thomas Wayne. Jeffrey Dean Morgan did say on Twitter that ever since Zack Snyder walked away, his whole bit in that world has walked away with him. But we still got Michael Keaton, so it's still fine. It's good. It's good. Number 5, Red Death. Coming from the Dark Multiverse, Earth 52, first appearing in Dark Days the Casting issue 1, Red Death Batman used to be a hero who fought alongside Robin in his world. The events that transpired in Batman's life were taking a harder toll on him. He was watching all of these sidekicks just bite the bullet, so he was desperate to find this new power, a new way to get ahead of these horrible crimes. So he looked at his world's Flash. Batman honestly believed that he could use the Speed Force better than the Flash, so he took out all the Flash's villains, stole all their tech, and then he himself fought the Flash, and he was winning. He drove the two of them into the Speed Force because he had merged his Batmobile with the Cosmic Treadmill. That's always fun. And then that's when he absorbed all of Barry's powers. He did it. After Batman came back from the Speed Force, he referred to himself as Batman, the Red Death, where he would easily and brutally kill Gotham's rogues. All the while, Barry's consciousness is begging him to stop inside of him. It's kind of like a nightmare, this version. Definitely a nightmare. Number 4, Azrael. Right after the 1993 Nightfall story, when Batman got his back broken by Bane, just absolutely wrecked, he decided to pass the Batman mantle right on to not Dick Grayson. No, instead he chose Jean-Paul Valley, aka Azrael. His run on Batman wasn't the same as Bruce's. I mean, for starters, Azrael's methods were pretty violent and quite irresponsible. In all fairness, he was capable of defeating Bane with his new tricked out batsuit, but this guy thought that he was actually an all-round better Batman and a permanent successor rather than a replacement. Got news for you, pal. So once Bruce did recover, he had to force Azrael to leave the position. Even the style changes were quite drastic. Azrael made more than a few changes to the suit. Now it's black and yellow, this metallic armor, and then he added some other gadgets like claws, dual mag weapons, and of course, a cape. Just to, because he's a hero, he needs a cape. Number 3, Terry McGinnis. The year is 2039, and by this point, Bruce Wayne has retired from the crime-fighting life. But meanwhile, Project Cadmus director Amanda Waller was out in search of a replacement, beginning with Project Batman Beyond. A major key element was using Batman's blood samples left over from his altercations, the OG Batman. That, mixed with some nanotech solutions, we now can make the DNA of Bruce Wayne. The future, how lovely. So Amanda found the Warren McGinnis household with Warren and Mary, and the couple was psychologically identical to Thomas and Martha Wayne. Perfect. So when they thought they were going in for a flu shot, they didn't know they were actually about to be the new parents of a new Batman. Amanda almost had both of them taken out to, encourage the lonely road of the Caped Crusader growing up, but thankfully she scrapped that idea. Because we don't need the same origin story, Amanda. Like, give the kid a minute to figure it out. Like, they don't have to. We don't need to. Turns out you can't avoid fate still, because down the road in Terry's teenage years, his father ended up getting killed, and Terry believed that it was actually the corrupt CEO Derek Powers behind all of it. So he got the help of Bruce Wayne, who was part of the merger with Derek Powers naturally. Then after facing off against the Joker's gang, Terry realized that Bruce was in fact this original Batman. So Terry stole his batsuit and was determined to find justice himself. The Beyond suit is just awesome. Rocket boots, claws, cloaking device, the red and black, I mean, you can't get any better than that. Number 2, Batman. Coming from Earth 43, Batman is, well, he's just that. He's Batman who doubles down as a vampire. Nice. We see him for the first time in Batman and Dracula Red Rain. His origins are the same for the most part, how he became Batman because of his parents, all that jazz. That's the same. But then when he's patrolling one night, he starts to find victims all with the same injury. Their throats have been just slashed apart. Who could have done this? Why, Dracula himself, that's who. He gets help from a rogue vampire named Tanya, who was once part of Dracula's posse. And Batman is so wild, this guy willingly gets bitten by a vampire to become one, so then he can take on Dracula. Whatever it takes to get the job done, I respect that a lot. And finally, number 1, Batman, the God of all knowledge. The Mobius chair made its first appearance in New Gods issue 1, and the chair itself was created by Mobius, aka the Anti-Monitor. He gave the chair to Metron, but when Metron took his eye off the prize for a minute, Batman ended up becoming the God of all knowledge for a short time. What happened was Wonder Woman grabbed Metron with her lasso, yanked him right off, and then before boom tubes were summoned or anything like that, Batman just took that chance that he had and jumped on the chair. Musical chair style. Then the Dark Knight becomes the bright light. The whole team at this time is fighting Darkseid, and Batman's just floating in the background, just trying to figure out the universe. He's just searching for solutions via the cosmic realm. It's pretty spectacular. Things took a jump to overdrive when he also received a power ring. I thought he was a good detective before, but now, I mean, that's just OP.
Number 10, the Batman from Red Sun. But we will be focusing on Batman here from Earth 30, the reality of Superman Red Sun. It should be noted that there are more, and that really the symbol of Batman is what is so powerful here. However, it all started with one man who we aren't even given the true name of. We simply know him as Batman. It was his mission to take down the man responsible for his parents' murder, Pyotr Roslov. In his attempt to get to Roslov, however, he ended up being pitted against the Soviet hero Superman, aka the Red Sun. Batman almost succeeded in defeating Superman here, but Wonder Woman unexpectedly became free of her bonds, turning the tides of the fight in Superman's favor. In the end, Batman decided to take his own life rather than be captured, blowing himself up but confessing to Superman beforehand the truth about the corrupt Roslov, and in so doing achieved his mission. While the original Batman died, others would later take his place in the fight for justice, inspired by the stories of his heroism. Number 9, Owlman. Owlman isn't a direct alternate version of Bruce Wayne, as he's the older brother of Bruce on Earth 3, Thomas Wayne Jr., the elder son of Martha and Thomas Wayne. However, he is the equal counterpart to main continuity Bruce, considering his place on the crime syndicate as their Batman, and so for that, we're going to include him here. When Thomas was younger, he orchestrated the death of his own parents as he believed they were squandering and mismanaging his inheritance, the family wealth. He even tried to get his younger brother Bruce, whom he loved dearly, to join him, but Bruce actually ended up getting cold feet, and Thomas as such was forced to kill him. As Owlman, Thomas is much more dangerous as he does not have the same moral code as main continuity Batman, but is at the same level when it comes to his intellect, training, and skills. And his plans. He's pretty good at plans too. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want more powerful alternate versions of Batman, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. 2 bat thumbs up. Do bats have thumbs? I don't think so. They have like little fingers on their wings. I think that's what they have. Little claws. Number 8. Richard Grayson. Dick Grayson is another alternate version of Batman who took up the cape and cowl following Batman's supposed death. Being that he's been trained and pretty much prepared to take up the mantle his whole life, being Batman's first Robin, Nightwing makes for a pretty powerful alternate Batman. Controversial opinion, perhaps, but despite his following in Batman's footsteps in terms of his moral code, I would say he is still a more powerful alternate than Owlman. I know some people might say like not having morals makes you more powerful, but I digress. At one point actually, he and Owlman teamed up and almost enacted a plot to take down the crime syndicate together. Dick comes with years of training and is known for his genius intellect, forensic skills, is a master martial artist, and would go on to become a very capable spy and develop espionage skills later on when he infiltrates Spiral. During his time as Batman, following the events and apparent death of Batman in Final Crisis, Grayson would fight alongside Damian Wayne, who acted as his sidekick Robin. Number 7. Father Bruce. You might refer to him as Bat Priest based on this art, but his real name is Father Bruce, and he is the head priest of the House of Milk and Honey, a new version of the Gather House. Father Bruce makes an appearance in Milk Wars, the Young Animals imprint crossover with the DC main world and characters. He is prominently featured in part 2 of the crossover in the Mother Panic and Batman special. The thing is, Father Bruce isn't really an alternate, but he's so cool, and this story is just so bizarre and great that I thought we needed to mention him here. I actually checked this out and then I was like, man, I gotta read Mother Panic, because I believe the writer of Mother Panic is the one that writes this comic. I'm sorry, I don't remember their name off the top of my head, but you should check it out. Father Bruce is a version of Batman who has been twisted into a priest. Here, Father Bruce is in charge of a small army of Robins known as the Holy Sidekick Choir of Merciful Justice, who he teaches using his book of Bat Manners and divine wisdom. They drink the milk created by Mother Partake, who does so in an eerie manner. She kind of creates it with her fingers, it's really weird, and have their histories rewritten by a golden machine. Bruce himself is trapped here until Mother Panic, aka Violet Page, manages to free him and he returns to his old self. But even in this alternate persona, he's pretty mighty. Also in this delusional, brainwash created reality, Bruce believes it is a priest crashing through his window, not a bat, that inspired him to take up the mantle of Father Bruce and become a priest. I just love that. I just love that he's like crashes through the window and he's like, who are you? And then he's like, I will become a priest, as he like drinks the milk. Oh, it's such a weird story, I like it. Number 6. Man Bat Batman. Now I know Taylor on his part 1 had Batman, aka Earth 43 turned vampire bats, but I figured why not bring you another vampiric version of the hero, because I also just really love vampires and they're powerful. This alternate version of Batman is not actually a Bruce Wayne alternate, but instead is an alternate version of Kirk Langstrom, who we know in the main continuity as Man-Bat. Kirk Langstrom here was working on a cure for cancer, specifically lymphoma, which he himself suffered from. He did end up creating a serum that cured him, yay, but regrettably, due to its ties to bats, it also turned him into a pseudo-vampire. As a vampire created by science, Langstrom became a part of the new superhero Holy Trinity in The Gods and Monsters. He possessed superhuman strength, durability, agility, and could fly, and also held onto his genius intellect. The one downside of his vampirism was that he did require blood in order to live. Comparable but somewhat different to Marvel's Morbius, who is also known as a pseudo-vampire. Number 5. Injustice Batman. Batman. Batman in Injustice not only has the moral high ground against Superman, who becomes a villain in this reality after the death of Lois Lane and their unborn child at his own hands due to the machinations of Joker and Harley Quinn, but Batman here also possesses the super pill, or more specifically, the 5U93R pill, which kinda spells super if you look at it. This pill, when ingested, allows Batman or his ally, father figure, and loyal butler Alfred to go toe-to-toe with Superman, meeting him on his level when it comes to strength and durability. Number 4. The Merciless. The Merciless is like the Wonder Woman version of the Dark Knights, as each of the core members is kinda meant to be a stand-in for a member of the Justice League. He initially teamed up with Diana Prince, aka Wonder Woman, to take down Ares on his world of Negative Earth 12 in the Dark Multiverse, but after doing so was forced to take Ares' helmet before Wonder Woman could and use it to defeat her. He basically knew that Diana would not allow him to use it otherwise, and so he was like, nah, I kinda gotta take it, otherwise it won't get used. He took up her symbol in her honor and wields the power of Ares, but multiplied. He is amazingly strong and durable, can summon any weapon, influence others to anger or fighting, and is pretty much god level, so yeah. Number 3. Super Batman. Super Batman was the name given to the Batman of Earth 1 when he traveled to Zur-En-Arrh. In the main continuity, Zur-En-Arrh was the name of Batman's alternate persona created when he witnessed the traumatic event of his parents being murdered that resides deep within his psyche. However, initially Zur-En-Arrh was the name given to a faraway planet in the golden age of Batman comics. It first appeared in issue 113 of Batman in the story Batman the Superman of Planet X. Here, Batman of Earth 1 is teleported a great distance to Zur-En-Arrh to aid Batman, the scientist Tlano, who watched Batman from afar through a telescope and was inspired to become the Batman of his own world, so he's also Batman. However, the intergalactic threat that Tlano Batman faces here is too great, and he needs Earth 1 Batman's help. On this planet, Earth 1 Batman's unique Earth-based human physiology makes him super strong, durable, and able to fly. Basically, he becomes Superman in terms of what he's capable of, which also at this time period I feel like would be pretty off the charts. Batman uses his powers to help Tlano and then is returned home afterwards and given one of Tlano's devices to keep as a memento. It doesn't work though, so it's basically just a little bit of junk that he can keep in his trophy case. Yay! Number 2. Darkfather. Darkfather was ultimately beaten by the superhero Holy Trinity, but only while they all kind of had a power upgrade all their own. He hails from the Dark Multiverse and is an alternate version of Bruce Wayne, who defeated Darkseid and took all his power and knowledge for himself afterward. Batman as Darkfather as such is a new god and also wields the anti-life equation, which he uses to influence others and to imprison them, forcing them to obey him and his will. He also has all the brilliance of main continuity Bruce and more. Number 1. Batman Who Laughs. Also known as the Darkest Knight, the Batman Who Laughs is an alternate version that is a combination of Batman and Joker. He comes from the Dark Multiverse reality of Negative Earth 22, where he as Batman ended up killing the Joker by snapping his neck after being pushed to the brink by the villain, who was dying anyways, admittedly. When he did so, however, he became infected by Joker Venom that was released by this very final action. After becoming infected, Bruce went insane and had most of his Bat family killed, except for his biological son, Damian Wayne, who joined his side. Batman Who Laughs would go on to become super powerful after acquiring the powers of Dr. Manhattan when he had his brain transplanted into the body of the Dr. Manhattan Batman alternate. The Darkest Knight, even before this power upgrade, was already pretty powerful because 1. He was super popular, which always gives characters power, and 2. He was a mentally ill genius, which made him extremely deadly and dangerous to take on and kinda unpredictable. He also often fought against the superheroes he came up against with dark metal, in some cases managing to infect them and in so doing recruit them to his own dark army. Plus he's got all those dark knights, so that's just another thing.
Kicking off the list at number 10. Bat Baby. We get a grown Robin and a baby Batman. What a treat. Making his first little baby steps in Batman issue 147. In fact, this is the 600th time Batman appeared in comics. So it was a pretty big deal at the time, and to this day, it's known as one of the most ridiculous comic books of all time, and I have to agree. It says Story of the Year on the cover, and that is not a lie. So what in the baby genius is happening here? Well, Nails Finney and his gang, including Garth, the renegade scientist, made a shrink ray. And it works like a charm, evidently. The thing is, it only shrank him. He wasn't sitting around all day filling his diaper and licking door handles. No, he had the same strength as regular size B-Man plus the brains. So he packed quite a punch in a little body. And he was okay with it too. He kind of leaned into the lifestyle a bit. He said if Gangland is calling him a baby, then he might as well dress like a baby too. Black jorts, little cape, he got the job done. Whatever it took. Number 9. Bizarro Batman. Created by Bizarro number 1 as a Batman duplicate, the world's worst detective made his first comic book appearance in World's Finest issue 156. I was going to use Bizarro Batman as number 10, but like Bat Baby, I had to. He's a baby, come on. I love Bizarro Batman. He speaks and thinks the exact opposite of Batman's true intentions. Like other Bizarros, their main weakness is blue kryptonite, an artificial isotope. Perhaps one of the best/worst features of this version of Batman has to be the useless utility belt. He did not have gadgets that saved the day stored in there. No, he had cigarette butts, chewing gum, that yes, had already been chewed, just a sticky mess in one of those. He had bottle caps, rusty nails, ashes, cigar ashes, and banana peels. Okay, like the nails and the banana peel, sure. I can maybe see like a Home Alone type trap coming from this guy. I wouldn't say the belt is totally useless, just really smelly. And before we continue on with this list, if you want to go ahead and give this video a thumbs up, that would be so great. We'd actually love that here, wouldn't we, Chris? We totally would. You guys are the best. Thank you so much. Now let's get right back to this alternate Batman list. Number 8, Prohibition Batman. Elliot Ness made his first appearance in Batman's Scar of the Bat, and he was a federal agent. His primary target is the one and only Al Capone. So this takes place during, of course, the Prohibition era in Chicago, and Elliot was part of a team referred to as the Untouchables, where he would stand alongside Danny Rasher, Frank Basile, and George Kochen. Now the best part of this comic isn't the fact that Batman is carrying a Tommy gun on the cover, that's close, but Elliot Ness was a real person in real history. The Untouchables were real. Back in 1903, Elliot Ness led this team. He didn't have a cape, but he did have a beautiful comb over. Imagine if he knew that he became Batman in an alternate reality. I wonder if he read the early issues. Wild. Food for thought. Number 7, Sir William. This one comes straight from Earth 9. So back in 1997, DC Comics launched Tangent Comics, which was a new take on our hero's backstory. Always a good time. So as you guessed from the name, Sir William, yes, this Batman was straight out of the Arthurian times. Sir William was a knight of King Arthur's Round Table, but things got a little messy once Morgan Le Fay seduced him and convinced him to fight King Arthur using her magic. So he was confined to his own castle. Oh, quite the punishment. Must be rough. Hey, here's your own castle, Sir William. Hope you like stargazing. And that's it. And candles. That's the weird thing about castles. They're kind of boring. They're beautiful, but definitely boring. Sir William did have a solution, however. He discovered that he had the ability to project his spirit into his armor and then have that walk free. What an ultimate gift. Could you imagine that as an excuse? Hey guys, sorry I'm late. My spirit got stuck in traffic. What'd I miss? Number 6, Batman the Wild. This version's wild. Making his first appearance in Batman Dark Joker the Wild back in 1994, this version is... look at him. He's a literal monster, and as far as the miniseries go, it's pretty trippy. See, Batman was the child of 2 sorcerers this time around, Magister and Lilandra, and when he was created purely to take down their greatest foe, the Dark Joker. Very Harry Potter vibes going on here. In usual Batman fashion, his parents got wiped out at a young age, but instead of beatboxing in an empty mansion, he grew up in solitude as a monster living in the wilderness. Batman discovered that he has an older sister, Sarisa, so she shows him the ropes, she cultured him, and that's about all she had the chance to do, as the Dark Joker took her out as well. Tragedy in any universe for this guy. The wild monster Batman ended up hucking Dark Joker out of a window, of course screaming to his deceased family all the while. And he scratched his mouth. That's actually how he got those scars, from Batman's dirty nails. Number 5, Batmouse. Coming from the JLA, of course meaning just a lot of animals, we meet the Caped Crusader from Earth C-, and it's perhaps one of the cutest versions of Batman, so I had to include him, with Batbaby aside. He's also pretty cute. You can find Batmouse go against the also adorable Joker Pig in Captain Carrot and his amazing Zoo Crew, issue 14. What a great name, Captain Carrot, that's lovely. The whole thing obviously is fun and games, especially with the first page. We see Wonder Wabbit, Green Lampkin, and next to Batmouse is this trusty sidekick, Boyd the Robin Wonder. How cute! Now the best part is that this is one of the few alternate universes to survive Crisis on Infinite Earths. So he's still out there, a silent guardian, a watchful protector, a dark knight, who's also a mouse. Number 4, Thrill Killer. Back in 1997, we got a pretty neat what-if scenario in DC Comics. Thrill Killer issue 1, we find Bruce Wayne on Earth 37, and his parents were actually killed by their servants at this time around. So there's no fortune to fall back on afterwards. The whole operation just collapsed in on itself. So Bruce now focused on law enforcement, eventually becoming a detective for Gotham City Police Department. He was one of the few good ones. He got this case handed to him where he had to track down and capture Batgirl and Robin. This case was his last though, due to the fact that he ended up being framed for the death of Selina Kyle. Bianca Steeplechase framed him, also amazing last name. So he became a fugitive after this. Bruce did eventually join Batgirl as Batman, and then they attacked the mob, all that good stuff, but after Steeplechase was taken down, Bruce was appointed commissioner, retiring the Batman side of his life. Number 3, Emo Batman. Coming from the Elseworlds 80-page giant, issue 1 back in 1999, Bruce Wayne was a moody teen, full of angst and of course, a love and lust for pop music. Like all of us. He was one of the members of the group the Pennyworths, who was discovered by Lex Luthor himself, and then they signed with Lex Records. How sick. Lex ended up dropping the group because Bruce was getting a little lost in the sauce. Some narcotic use was keeping him in a dark place. You gotta keep it clean, Bruce. How else are you going to play at Coachella? Think. I already bought my tickets, man. Rain or shine. Number 2, Black Masterpiece Batman. Black Masterpiece is an Elseworlds story as well, and it's perhaps one of my favorite versions. Elseworlds Annual issue 18, Black Masterpiece shows us a fun alternate past where the young apprentice of Leonardo da Vinci became the first ever Batman. The woman posing for the Mona Lisa, she ends up getting kidnapped. Mid-pose, she's like, what? She ends up getting kidnapped, and it's a fun story because it's current day, and then all of a sudden it's old-timey Batman, nice little back and forth. So Bruce Wayne tracking down stolen artwork sounds like a boring time, but the 1994 classic is all but. Number 1, Leatherwing. The captain of the Flying Fox, a 17th century privateer making his first swashbuckle in Detective Comics Annual issue 7. Leatherwing is a pirate version of Batman, not a pirated version, a literal pirate version of him. How great does that sound right off the bat? This dude resides in the barnacle-filled Earth 494, and Captain Leatherwing sailed the seas with his first mate Alfredo, and soon met Robin Redblade, Prince of the Urchins and Bloody Terror of the Kingston Docks. Look, Batman's British, Alfredo is an Italian dude who constantly disagrees with him, and yes, to answer your burning question, Leatherwing fights with a sword. Even though his parents were both killed by a sword. Odd little parallel there. The Flying Fox, the ship, is actually a nod to Zorro, who in regular continuity was an influence on Bruce Wayne. Zorro is Spanish for fox, so the Flying Fox, you got it.
In a 10, Future Flash. The Future Flash is certainly a powerful version of Barry, but he's not really from another reality, but from an alternate future that he wants to prevent from happening, hence why he's at number 10. The Future Flash is a version of Barry Allen from the future who blamed himself for the death of Wally West. So in an effort to correct that mistake, he tries to prevent this tragedy by killing people. Yeah, he starts killing his enemies to gain enough speed to travel back in time. He starts by killing Gorilla Grodd with like a little microbomb that he phases into his head, and then eventually he kills enough people that he can travel back in time to kill one final person, himself. His goal this whole time was to travel back to before Wally dies and kill his old self, preventing any of this from happening. At least that's what he thinks is gonna happen, which is honestly a pretty awful plan if you ask me. But based on how he killed his entire rogues gallery, essentially in order to gain enough speed to travel back in time, makes him seem pretty damn powerful, and honestly, really scary. Like, if you're willing to kill another version of your past self, or whatever it is, okay, you need some therapy or something. I mean, it still sounds like a paradox to me, like I don't think you could actually kill yourself, but hey. And at 9, Kingdom Come. Wally West from Earth 22 is really powerful, but it comes with a major downfall. In the Kingdom Come universe of Earth 22, Wally West received his speed through unknown means, but nonetheless he still became the Flash, obviously. When Superman retired though, Wally kept going, but he kept going and never stopped, running from scene to scene, disaster to disaster, never taking a break. This ended up somehow just making it so that he could never stop running, having to constantly run as fast as he could, resulting in appearing to everyone as just a red blur, classic Flash style. But while this is powerful, he literally cannot stop, so there isn't really much benefit to it. However, he didn't end up killing himself or traveling back in time to kill himself, so you know what, in my books he's more powerful than future Flash, even if he can't stop running. I mean, like, at least the cops or death can't really catch him that way, right? Like, do you think, like, as he gets older, like, he slows down, like, to a point where he shouldn't be able to stand, but he's still running as fast as, like, your typical 23-year-old jogger? But, like, he can never stop? And it ain't Mercury Flash. Mercury Flash is a robotic version of the Flash made by Dr. Tornado as a member of his Metal League. The robot uses a mercury-based physiology, whatever that means, that makes it able to somehow channel the Speed Force. I don't understand how this man not only learned about the Speed Force but was able to replicate or siphon it using mercury or whatever, but who cares? It's comics. It doesn't need to make sense as long as it advances the plot. First being introduced in the Multiversity Guidebook #1 in March 2015, this version of the Flash can do everything the normal Flash can do powers-wise. Because, you know, he's a robot, he can't really do, human-like activities. And has the added advantage of, you know, being a robot, so he doesn't really fear death. Not only is it not coded into him, but he also is just straight up being able, you can repair him. This version of the Flash hails from Earth 44, and honestly, I kinda wish I was him. No responsibilities, only running super fast. That's the dream. And it's 7, Black Flash. The actual physical representation of death for all speedsters, and honestly, maybe a couple other people, but they just don't see him coming. Black Flash is the Grim Reaper of the Speed Force. Making his first appearance in The Flash Volume 2 number 138 in 1998, he was seen before the deaths of several speedsters, including Barry Allen, Johnny Quick, and Bart Allen. He also tried to return Wally West to the Speed Force, but was unsuccessful, taking Wally's girlfriend Linda Park instead. I mean, like, based on past experiences, Wally, feel like he did you a favor. But since he was unsuccessful the first time, Black Flash returned to try to take Wally again, freezing time for everyone who didn't have a connection to the Speed Force, which is a total dick move. Like, first you take my girl, and now you're still trying to get me? Then bro, at least give me my girl back. But thanks to the combined efforts of multiple speedsters, including Jay Garrick, Max Mercury, and Jesse Quick, Wally was actually able to race Black Flash to the end of time, causing death to apparently have no meaning, which I mean doesn't really make total sense because as long as someone is still living, death would still matter, but oh well. It's comics, like I said. But that didn't stop the Speed Force, because later Barry Allen returned in the Flash Rebirth storyline, becoming the new Black Flash. Until Professor Zoom took over the title after, you know, he was raised in the Blackest Night storyline. Yeah, there's been a lot of Black Flashes. And at 6, Darkseid War. What's more powerful than a speedster death? What about actual death as a speedster? That's right. In the Darkseid War storyline, Barry Allen becomes the host for Death, also known as the Black Racer. Through Barry, Black Racer kills Darkseid and Barry fights off Black Racer, escaping from his grasp. Barry runs away, but the Racer gives chase, staying mere inches behind him. When Black Racer catches up to Barry, he explains that he must have a tether. If he doesn't, the entire world will end and everybody will die. He shows this world to Barry, and Barry accepts the power. He has to kill someone though to let the universe continue to live. So then he appears in front of Iris. As he does, the Black Racer bursts out and tries to kill her, but Barry once again frees himself from the manifestation of death, but this time using his own weapon to kill him. Killing Black Racer seemed to be the answer, but instead, Barry Allen had freed Death. And since it no longer had a tether, it wiped everyone out. Yeah, Death isn't as cool and collected as the one from Supernatural. But luckily this was all happening inside of Barry's head. So when he comes to, he accepts the responsibility of Death and becomes in essence just the Grim Reaper, the last thing that anyone sees before they die. And honestly, that's pretty damn powerful if you ask me. And also, kind of my dream job. Halfway through and at number 5, Savitar. As a fan of the Arrowverse, I feel like I need to include one of the most interesting evil speedsters in the show. Savitar, while sharing a name with another evil speedster from the comics, is actually revealed to be a time remnant of Barry Allen in the show. Being more of a future Flash than Savitar, I mean, he's kind of both. It's weird. He also didn't come back to kill Barry, he came back to kill Iris. His story is pretty messed up. In essence, making himself and having like a classic chicken and the egg scenario. Which came first, Savitar or the Time Remnant? Neither, they both kind of made each other. In the post-Flashpoint Arrowverse timeline, Savitar comes back from the future after escaping a Speed Force prison to kill Iris West before her and Barry can get married. This causes Barry to create as many Time Remnants as he possibly can because he is willing to kill himself in order to save Iris. Yeah, the Savitar kills them all because, he's a future version of Barry. He knows what's gonna happen. Except he spares one. The one he spares is gonna become Savitar because he gets shunned by the rest of the team for not being the real Barry Allen, even though he is still the real Barry Allen. Whatever. So in an act of fury and rage, the Time Remnant runs back in time, creating a new identity for himself as the first speedster and the god of speed, known as Savitar. But the suit he wears also allows him to travel at basically instantaneous speeds, and it's also existent and non-existent at the same time. And the show version of the Flash has not been able to do that at this point. He's not been able to travel basically instantaneously, even in recent seasons. And he's only visible to other speedsters. Normal people can't see him, at least while he's trapped inside the Speed Force prison. I don't think they really went over that afterwards, after he got out. But hey, whatever. And at 4, Speed Demon. Recently, I wrote a list about the Amalgam universe that combined DC and Marvel characters, and the Speed Demon comes from this universe. A combination of Barry Allen and Johnny Blaze. Barry Allen was a circus daredevil who sold his soul to become the first Speed Demon. The demon component of Etrigan was also formerly Jay Garrick, because Night Spectre stole Jay's soul, which is kind of rude because that's my thing. Anyway, the Night Spectre approached Blaze and asked him to serve in his attempts to collect the souls of pure and the most corrupt, and I mean also again that sounds like a pretty sweet deal, but Blaze Allen refused. So in an attempt to persuade him, I guess in a way persuade him, at his wedding night, Night Spectre stole Iris's soul, and then he asked Blaze to do it, and then he did because he wanted to get his girl back, or at least make sure that she wasn't going to be killed or something. But I mean yeah, that's not how that works. Speed Demon also speaks only in rhymes, and whenever I do that, people get mad at me, but I don't care. This is a speedster with a flaming skull head that can also breathe fire. So yeah, Wally West, which is an amalgam of Wally West and Danny Ketch, was also the next Speed Demon who accepted the power in order to help his uncle get Iris back. But I mean come on, a fire-breathing, speeding ball of fire and lightning? That sounds incredibly badass. Getting close to the end in at number 3, Godspeed. August Hart is the former detective partner of Barry Allen. August was the only witness to Barry's accident that turned him into the Flash. While going after a criminal organization known as Black Hole, August was struck by lightning during a Speed Force storm in Central City. So, after this, August became the ruthless vigilante known as Godspeed, and got his revenge on the one who he suspected to be his brother's killer. He had given up on the justice system since his brother's killer had gone free, and with his newfound power, had the ability to become judge, jury, and executioner. August realized after he had gotten his powers that he also had the ability to steal other speedsters' speed, though for a time could only do it by killing them. He practiced this skill enough to be able to do it non-lethally, but he still was killing people. So with his new godlike speed, August was able to move so fast that he could create duplicates of himself at any given time, allowing him to give the illusion that he and Godspeed were two different people, which is pretty damn sick, considering the alternatives are Speed Mirage and Time Remnant, which aren't really the same thing. And I mean, the CW show also did kind of adapt this with all the Godspeed clones during the Godspeed War storyline, which I mean they should have went into more, but oh well. Penultimately, in at number 2, Red Death. Red Death is a speedster that is an evil combination of Batman and the Flash, which already sounds terrifying, but wait till you hear his story. The Bruce Wayne of Earth 52 started off fighting crime with Robin, but Robins kept dying left, right, and center. So understandably, Batman got darker and darker, becoming more extreme with his methods, which honestly just seems more realistic to me. Now, aside from him just, quitting fighting crime. This eventually leads him to Barry, who he tries to get speed from. But Barry refuses to give Bruce his Speed Force powers. So Batman uses various rogues' weapons to fight him and knocks him out. Once Barry was unconscious, Bruce tied him to the front of a cosmic treadmill-powered Batmobile and drives them both into the Speed Force. And then when entering the Speed Force, Barry and Bruce end up fusing together into a Batman with super speed, while Barry's mind was trapped inside Bruce's body. And you know, of course Bruce gets to drive. He also then gets a visit from the Batman Who Laughs, and who they try to recruit him into conquering the multiverse. Anyway, eventually he gets exposed to a large dose of positive energy, which allows Barry Allen to take control. Gotta love those positive vibes. And then he helped in the fight against the Dark Knights, but also the positive energy kills him, and Red Death explodes. Finally, in number 1, White Lantern. While Barry Allen became a White Lantern at the end of the Blackest Night storyline, he became in essence a god. I described this in the most powerful Green Arrows list, but hot damn do these dudes have some sweet powers. They can use any color from the spectrum of light, since white light is just a combination of all the others. I'm sure you've seen the album cover, or at the very least the Eevee version of the album cover, and you know, the White Lanterns also have power over life, including the ability to duplicate their rings and resurrect people. Basically anything you think of, they can do it. It's absolutely insane. The White Lanterns are basically God, but with many different avatars. White energy blasts, force field generation, energy constructs, energy twins, ring duplication, mind alteration, wormhole generation, time travel, invisibility, resurrection, just to name a few. Yeah, it's so overpowered that I'm surprised that DC didn't just explode after that. Like, imagine you could play as like a White Lantern in Injustice, but like an actual White Lantern, not like a recolored Green Lantern. Oh, damn.
Number 10, Oliver Queen. During the Elseworlds story in CW's Arrowverse, we learned that Oliver Queen and the Flash have swapped bodies, or rather roles. Everyone seems to think that Oliver is Barry and that Barry is Oliver. Initially, although both heroes struggle to fit into the other's role, eventually the two are able to figure out what makes the other such a great hero and channel some of their energy. Oliver himself struggles as the Flash, but even when he's running into walls and misfiring Speed Force lightning, he still manages at least to catch the bad guy, which is pretty impressive. Even when he's doing a bad job, it's not that bad. And after Barry takes him under his wing, he actually becomes a pretty decent Flash by the end of the storyline. Considering how many people love Oliver Queen when it comes to the Arrowverse, with him being sort of the ultimate main character, because, you know, it's the Arrowverse, it wouldn't surprise me if people preferred that Queen remain the Flash, as then he'd get cool super speed powers permanently. Number 9, the Accelerated Man. From CW's Arrowverse in The Flash, we hear of an alternate version of the character from Earth 19. We don't have too much information on this alternate version of the Flash, but it has been suggested that they are a speedster who instead goes by the name the Accelerated Man. Earth 19's H.R. Wells, the alternate version of Star Labs director, founder, and lead scientist Harrison Wells, claims that he played a key role in helping the Accelerated Man to capture all of the metahuman criminals from their world at once, which honestly sounds pretty impressive. The Accelerated Man is also a speedster from the comics who hails from Earth 19, although that version of the character is a little bit different, though they do look pretty similar to the CW version. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, really quick, before we get there, make sure you click that like button. It does help us out and it lets us know that you want more good Flash content like this. Number 8, Iris West II. Iris currently goes by the name Impulse in the comics. She is the daughter of Wally West and Linda Park, who initially was lost when the New 52 started up. However, her dad remembered her existence and the family he had once had from the previous continuity, and he would end up seeking out Iris and her twin brother Jay. In the previous continuity, it was suggested that Iris could even grow up to become faster than her dad, Wally West, who is known for being one of the fastest speedsters of all time. So that's pretty impressive. However, in the current continuity, I don't think this has been established as something that could happen in Iris's future. However, we do know in Iris's future that she could go on to live to do her father, the Flash, proud, and while not an explicit version of the Flash, we have seen into a future in issue 771 of the Flash, where she goes on to become the new Kid Flash. And because I love Iris so much, I'm gonna count it because I just love her as a character. Number 7, Eobard Thawne. I know what you're thinking, hey, but isn't Eobard Thawne known known as a villain and the Reverse Flash? In the main continuity, yes, but in the Dark Multiverse Flashpoint story, Eobard actually becomes the Flash, and what's more, he kinda becomes a hero as well. A dark, twisted, and messed up hero, hellbent on eradicating competing heroes of that universe, but a hero nonetheless. He succeeds in defeating Barry Allen and Flashpoint Batman, aka Thomas Wayne, and then sets out to change the world, shaping it into his version of perfect. This involves preventing Batman from ever becoming Batman, and instead creating his own superhero team. Number 6. Impulse. Okay, so Impulse isn't really the Flash. He's more associated with the Kid Flash name than the main Flash name, though he did at one point dress up as the Flash in order to buy time for Wally. Unfortunately, his very brief time impersonating the Flash wearing the costume was cut very short, as at this time Bart was without his powers and ended up being killed. Of course, this was still a very moving story involving Bart, who is probably the most loved member of the Flash family, with really only Iris and Jay West offering any potential competition there, in my opinion. Those two are a couple of super lovable cuties as Wally and Linda's kids. Also, despite being young, Bart Allen is still super powerful when he is powered. He can time travel, hop dimensions, has been shown to be fast enough to fend off and even beat Godspeed, and he can phase. Number 5. Jess Chambers. Jess Chambers is the Flash from Earth 11, who in Future State ended up moving to Earth 0, heading there to help at first but deciding to stay on Earth 0 permanently. They ended up joining the Future Justice League, and while working alongside their teammates, we saw Jess do something pretty cool. Something I'm not sure I've ever seen another Flash do before, but if you have, I guess let me know in the comments. The Justice League seem to be trapped in another world by the White Martians, who have taken their place and aim to conquer Earth 0. Flash uses their Speed Force senses to determine, based on the vibration of the Earth that they are on, that it's not actually the Justice League's home world, it's not Earth 0. In order to take the League home, Jess then shares their power with their teammates, also granting them a connection to the Speed Force and Super Speed temporarily, allowing them to travel through the multiverse together and all return home. Also, for those wondering, Earth 0 is the number for future states, reality, and Earth. Number 4. Jay Garrick. Jay Garrick was the first Flash. He actually gained his superpowers from his own experiments. He might not have been the fastest Flash initially, considering that he could travel near the speed of light, which in retrospect now isn't actually that fast compared to some other Flashes, but back in the day that was considered to be pretty impressive. Before we got as crazy as being able to duplicate yourself with the Speed Force and travel back and forth through time, Jay was also known for being a brilliant scientist. He has even been called on in the past in the original comic series to use his scientific skills to help save the world. And when it comes to making all the right calls, Jay is definitely one of the wisest Flashes that we have in the comics, as he has the most experience. Jay is also one of the best Flashes because, well, he doesn't really overstay his welcome. He ended up retiring as the Flash but would still make appearances here and there when he was needed, which honestly I think is the best you can do, because as a Flash you kinda can go back into the Speed Force and pop back out again, but you don't need to stay forever. Unlike some Flashes. Looking at you, Barry. Number 3. Red Racer. While his existence in the comics was a bit short-lived, Red Racer is definitely one of the coolest Flashes that we've ever got to meet. He was not just a science nerd like so many of the Flashes are, but was also a comic book nerd. The best kind? I think so. He made sure to get President Superman of Earth 23 to sign his Superman comic upon meeting him. Red Racer is the fastest man alive on Earth 36 and part of that world's Justice 9 team. He ended up joining a multiversal sort of Justice League that included Earth 23's Superman, Earth 11's Aquawoman, and Captain Carrot of Earth 26. This team is known as Justice Incarnate in the comics. Red Racer also did not hesitate when he had to give up his life in order to save others, and he also proved how intelligent he was at that time when he rapidly built a receiver version of Ultima Thule, a sort of interdimensional spaceship that is made out of frozen music. Doing so cost him his life but enabled the rest of his teammates to save the day. Oh, and he also did it really fast, and it's supposed to be a thing that takes thousands of years. And I'm pretty sure he also did it without any blueprint. He just was yeah, I'll just build it. I'll die, but I got you guys. So cool. What a hero. Number 2. Red Death. Because Batman basically does everything better, including being the Flash. Or well, this is the Dark Multiverse and the Dark Knights, so I guess I should say he does it the worst in terms of him being a bad guy, but he also does it the best in terms of what he is capable of. Bruce Wayne as the Dark Multiverse Flash, the Red Death, can actually use his Speed Force powers to create constructs. If you are struck with one of these bat-like constructs, you'll end up withering to the point of death, aging thousands of years almost instantly. So this is probably the most deadly version of the Flash that we've ever seen in the comics. Red Death hails from Negative Earth 52, back when there were negative Earths and we had a Dark Multiverse. RIP Dark Multiverse. Number 1. Wally West. Obviously, who is one of the best Flashes around? None other than Wally West, the once new version of the Flash everyone fell in love with and then were deprived of for years. However, Wally is back now, and not in a way where he's forced to be a villain or to be miserable. He actually gets to be a hero and be happy in the comics, which is really all most Wally fans have wanted for him and his family this whole time. Wally West is the nephew of Iris West and therefore by marriage Barry Allen. For a time, Wally operated as Barry's sidekick, Kid Flash, but would eventually become a hero all his own. Wally is considered to be one of the fastest Flashes to have ever existed, and he also seems to have learned somewhat from Barry's and the other Flash's mistakes in the past, making him sometimes a little bit wiser by comparison. At least a bit wiser than Barry.
And at 10, Black Flash. The embodiment of death for all speedsters, Black Flash is the Grim Reaper of the Speed Force. Making his first appearance in The Flash Volume 2 number 138 in 1998, he was seen before the deaths of several speedsters including Barry Allen, Johnny Quick, and Bart Allen. He also tried to return Wally West to the Speed Force, however was unsuccessful, taking Linda Park instead, Wally's girlfriend, which I have to admit is a pretty big bummer. Since he was unsuccessful the first time, Black Flash then returned to try to claim Wally again, freezing time for everyone without a connection to the Speed Force. But thanks to the combined efforts of multiple speedsters including Jesse Quick, Jay Garrick, and Max Mercury, Wally was able to race Black Flash to the end of time, causing death to have no meaning, defeating the zombie speedster instantly. I mean, I know he's not a zombie, but he looks like one. But that wouldn't stop the Speed Force, since later Barry Allen returned in the Flash Rebirth storyline, becoming the new Black Flash, until Professor Zoom took the title after his corpse was raised in the Darkest Night storyline. Before we move on to number 9 though, if you could do me a huge favor and hit those like and subscribe buttons, that would be amazing. It really helps us out against the eternal struggle of the algorithm and lets us know what you want to see more of. Thanks. Now, let's continue. And at 9, the Black Racer. However, Black Flash was not the first embodiment of death that speedsters had to deal with. Being introduced in New Gods number 3 in 1971, Sergeant William Walker became a servant to Darkseid after being paralyzed during the Vietnam War. But while sharing the same concept, the thing that makes these two speedster death gods different is their abilities. While yes, both are speedsters, the Black Racer possesses the unique power to merge with a host, corrupting that person and enhancing their abilities. He did this with Bart Allen and used that to kill Darkseid during the Darkseid War storyline when the Anti-Monitor had taken control of the Black Racer. Black Racer also kills Darkseid in Final Crisis in place of Barry Allen and Wally West. This was pre-Flashpoint though. Plus, his costume just looks pretty badass if you ask me. This is the kind of evil speedster that you should cosplay. Damn, that would be cool. And at 8, Johnny Quick. Johnny Quick of Earth 3 is an evil version of the Flash who's a member of the Crime Syndicate, basically the Justice League, but evil. Same people, but different alignment. Jonathan Allen was once a high-profile criminal, but got cornered on the roof of Star Labs. While on the roof, Jonathan got struck by lightning, which also shattered the roof. John and his girlfriend fell through that roof, with John landing in a load of chemicals which ended up granting him his super speed. And his girlfriend, Rhonda, ended up gaining powers similar to that of the Atom. Looking at images of this guy, you can tell that he's nuts. Like, he looks like if the Green Goblin became a speedster. Like if Norman got the Carnage symbiote and then got super speed, this is what that would look like. Absolutely bonkers. However, when fighting against the Injustice League of Earth Prime, Johnny underestimated Captain Cold. See, he had managed to disarm Cold, but the gun was also voice activated, which allowed Snart to remotely freeze Johnny's leg and then kick it, shattering it. Johnny tried to crawl away, but was killed thanks to Alexander Luthor stealing his powers and then getting his neck snapped. That's gonna leave a mark. And at 7, Kingdom Come Flash. Wally West from Earth 22 is weird to me since it feels so backwards, everything does. And the Kingdom Come universe of Earth 22, Wally West received his speed through unknown means, but nonetheless he still became the Flash. And when Superman retired, Wally kept going, but he kept going and never stopped, running from scene to scene, disaster to disaster, never taking a break. Before this, however, he ended up having a daughter, who got her speed genetically and became Kid Flash. However, this is where it gets weird to me. His children were named Iris West and Barry West, and it sets me on edge, because like they're supposed to be older than him, and then Wally is supposed to inherit the Flash mantle. It's weird. Not to mention that this time, Barry and Iris are actual biological siblings, which only makes all the memes about the Arrowverse even worse at this point. But considering Wanda and Pietro from the Ultimate Universe, it's nothing new for comics. Gotta love them Game of Thrones-esque love stories, am I right? Okay, well in this universe the kids don't actually end up dating, but you know what I mean. And at 6, Savitar. Yes. As a fan of the Arrowverse, I felt the need to include one of the most interesting evil speedsters on the show. Savitar, while sharing the name with another evil speedster from the comics, actually is revealed to be a time remnant of Barry Allen in the show, being more of a future Flash than Savitar. Honestly, he's a combination of both. His story though is very confusing, in essence making himself a paradox. In the post-Flashpoint Arrowverse timeline, Savitar comes back from the future to kill Iris West before her and Barry get married. This causes Barry to create as many time remnants as possible, which is basically a clone of himself, in order to stop him. But Savitar kills all of them except one. The one he spares then gets shunned by the rest of Team Flash for not being the real Barry Allen, even though he's still technically the real Barry. It's weird. So in an act of fury, the time remnant runs back in time, creating a new identity for himself as the first speedster and the god of speed known as Savitar, and then somehow gets his face badly burned. I feel like I need to return him to Papa John's. When he fails at killing Iris, however, he tries to scatter himself across time to become immortal, but is stopped by Team Flash and is shot in the back by Iris, which lets the paradox catch up. Season 3 was weird, man. It's nothing compared to Season 7 though. Halfway through into number 5, Bizarro Flash. When Bizarro 3 found himself infused with radiation from a blue sun, he got the power to replicate himself as well as create other Bizarro life forms based upon the likeness of people from Earth, which is gonna have a ton of legal repercussions, but whatever. He uses this power to create a cube-shaped Minecraft-like Earth he calls Bizarro World. One of the inhabitants he creates for it is Bizarro Flash. The post-crisis Bizarro Flash is morbidly obese and is super slow, which is just ridiculous. But for some reason, he can also fly at the speed of light, apparently, which also doesn't make any sense, but hey, it's comic books, what are you gonna do? Some versions of this Bizarro can still run fast, but get winded easily, so they don't pose much of a threat. Certainly not against the likes of someone like Kingdom Come Flash, who never stops running. This version of Bizarro Flash also has a line of mustard for a logo instead of a lightning bolt, although I do have an odd craving for hot dogs now. And at 4, Leah Nelson. Leah Nelson from Earth 9 is a very different version of the Flash, to say the least. On her Earth, Leah is the second most recognized person on the planet. She was an instant celebrity since her parents were the first people to visit Jupiter, her mother was a bit of a hero herself, and her father was a Nightwing agent, even if he wasn't very good at it. But Leah is a being of light, and once able to control this power, she took on the moniker of the Flash. Since she is a being of light, Leah is also able to travel at the speed of light, basically making her a speedster without having a connection to the Speed Force, which I admit may frustrate some of you with her being on this list, but I thought it was interesting and is certainly a weird version of the Flash. Leah also has a whole host of powers, including superhuman speed, metamorphosis, where she uses light to create solid holograms and alter her appearance, energy construct creation, allowing her to make solid objects out of light, energy projection, which is just beams of energy, and energy absorption, which in essence makes her immune to any form of light, including lasers. Just think of energy as lightning and then boom, even more flashlight. Getting close to the end into number 3, Hot Pursuit. What is the Flash known for? Running really fast, right? Running so fast that he can actually end up beating instantaneous teleportation. So what's the deal with this Flash? Being first introduced in The Flash Volume 3 number 6, Hot Pursuit is a version of Barry Allen from another universe who came to warn his counterpart about an impending disaster, which ends up being Flashpoint. The difference? This Flash doesn't run. Instead, he has a Speed Force powered motorcycle called the Cosmic Motorcycle. Yeah, his cowl is a motorcycle helmet and his suit is in black and white. This version of Barry Allen doesn't seem to have a physical connection to the Speed Force, only being able to access it through his motorcycle. Unfortunately though, Hot Pursuit dies 6 issues later in The Flash Volume 3 number 12 as a part of the Road to Flashpoint event. The moniker of Hot Pursuit would later be adopted by Patty Spivot after she stole his gear from the Central City Police Department. Penultimately into number 2, Speed Demon. Demon. I remember a while ago I mentioned an amalgam universe that combined DC and Marvel characters, and I mentioned the Iron Lantern, a combination of Hal Jordan and Tony Stark. Well, today I present you Speed Demon, a combination of Barry Allen and Johnny Blaze. Blaze Allen was a circus daredevil who sold his soul to become the first Speed Demon. The demon component of Etrigan was formerly Jay Garrick before the Night Spectre stole Jay's soul. The Night Spectre approached Blaze and asked him to serve him in his attempts to collect souls of the most pure and the most corrupt. Blaze Allen refused. So in an attempt to persuade him, at his wedding, Night Spectre stole Iris's soul. Blaze then accepted the bond, hoping to get Iris back, or at least to ensure her safety. Speed Demon speaks only in rhymes, but is a speedster with a flaming skull head that can also breathe hellfire, which is pretty dope. Wally West, which is an amalgam of Wally West and Danny Ketch, was the next Speed Demon, who accepted the power in order to help his uncle get Iris back, because he still didn't get her back after he accepted the power. Finally, coming in at number 1, the Crash. Oh my god. Coming from Earth C-, this Crash is the fastest animal alive, and a member of the Just a Lot of Animals group, which is this world's Justice League. On Earth C, everyone is some form of animal, and it's probably the most ridiculous thing that you could ever read. While his real name is unknown, the Crash is this universe's Flash. And not only that, but he's actually a turtle. The classic tortoise in the hare scenario. Slow and steady wins the race to get super speed and a connection to the Speed Force apparently. And I'm not even kidding, he fights against characters with names like the Weather Weasel instead of the Weather Wizard. That's hilarious. I love it so much. The Crash was first introduced in Captain Carrot and His Amazing Zoo Crew number 14, which also features superheroes like Wonder Wabbit, that's actually how it's said, Aquaduck, Batmouse, and apparently not a Batman, who is literally a bat for some reason, the Green Lambkin, and not the Green Lantern, and my personal favorite, the Green Sparrow, along with a load of other ridiculous names like The Item. I suggest you go check these out if you're looking for a laugh, because oh my god, this had me cackling. It's great. And at 10, Future Flash. The Future Flash is certainly an odd character, not due to anything about them, be it physically or otherwise, but because of his motives. The Future Flash is a version of Barry Allen from the future who blamed himself for the death of Wally West. In an effort to correct his mistakes and try to prevent this tragedy, he starts killing enemies to gain enough speed to travel back in time. He starts by killing Gorilla Grodd with a microbomb he phases into his head. Then he eventually kills enough people to travel back to kill one final enemy, himself. His goal this whole time was to travel back to before Wally dies and kill his old self, preventing any of this from happening. At least he thinks. Which honestly is a pretty awful plan if you ask me. Like, I know that it's like, well, alternate timelines or whatever, but if you went back in time and killed yourself, wouldn't you then not be alive in order to go back and kill yourself, thus making it impossible for you to kill a past version of yourself? I mean, you could kill your future self, but not your past one. It just seems odd to me, honestly. Though Future Flash is evidently stopped, he does give Barry a clue about the murder of his mother, saying only one word: Thawne. And at 9, Red Death. Red Death is a speedster version of Batman from the Dark Multiverse, and no, not the Universal one. The Bruce Wayne of Earth 52 started off fighting crime with Robin, but as various Robins kept dying, Batman got darker and darker, becoming more extreme with his methods. This eventually leads him to Barry, who refuses to give Bruce his Speed Force powers. So Batman uses the various rogues' weapons to fight Barry, knocking him out. Once Barry was unconscious, Bruce tied him to the front of a cosmic treadmill-improved Batmobile and drives them both into the Speed Force. When entering the Speed Force, Barry and Bruce end up fusing together into a Batman with super speed, while Barry's mind was trapped in Bruce's body. He then gets a visit from the Batman Who Laughs, who asks him to join Barbados's Dark Knights, whose goal is conquering the multiverse. Eventually, he gets exposed to a large dose of positive energy, which allows Barry Allen to regain control, helping in the fight against the Dark Knights. But the positive energy also kills him, and Red Death explodes into light. Fun. And at 8, Daniel West. First appearing in The Flash Volume 4 number 0 in 2012, Daniel West's mother died while giving birth to him, something that his father never forgave him for. Iris West, as his sister, protected and supported Daniel until he ended up pushing their father down the stairs and crippled him for life. After that incident, due to fear of being shunned by Iris, Daniel fled and became a small-time thug by age 18. When trying to make it to the big times, he was stopped by the Flash and was sent to prison for 5 years. Eventually he got out but was kidnapped by gorillas and then saved from those gorillas by the Rogues. folks, who then he tried to escape, but got hit with a monorail powered by a Speed Force battery. This is what gave Daniel his speed, although it was dependent on the charge of that battery. So in an effort to go back in time and kill his father to save his relationship with Iris, which is kinda backwards buddy, but you know, you do you, he started killing speedsters to gain enough speed to make the journey. In the end, he was stopped by the Flash, who convinced him to give up his speed. Daniel West is one of the rogues that Future Flash ended up killing in his mission to gain enough speed to, in essence, do the same thing that Daniel wanted to do, except Future Flash was killing himself, not his father. But Daniel officially died in New Suicide Squad Annual number 1 in 2015. In its 7, Earth X. Earth X, or Earth 10, Flash was born and raised in a world where Germany won World War II. And since this is a sensitive subject for YouTube, I'm going to avoid using specific terms, so my apologies in advance. While his real name is unknown, Der Blitz, as he's known in German, is the member of the, oh god, I'm going to butcher this, Gretschkidtilga. Oh wait, hold on, that's wrong, I need to yell it. Gretschkidtilga! God, I hate myself for that. Which is basically an evil regime version of the Justice League, also referred to as the JL Axis. The current members are Brunhild, the Earth 10 Wonder Woman, Leatherwing, Earth 10 Batman, Hawkman, Hawkgirl, Flash, Green Lantern, and Overman, the Superman of Earth 10. This version of the Flash also appears in the Freedom Fighters The Ray animated series that takes place in the Arrowverse, but was interestingly missing from the Crisis on Earth X crossover that featured characters from this show. Instead, this Flash was just Eobard Thawne from Earth 1 wearing Harrison Wells' face, which leads some to believe that Thawne killed the Earth X version of Flash in order to prove himself to the regime. In its 6, Savitar. This Avatar from the comics is certainly another interesting character, first appearing in Flash Volume 2 number 108 in 1995. The man whose name is still unknown that became Savitar was a Cold War test pilot. As he reached top speed in a test flight for a supersonic fighter plane, the plane was struck by lightning and went down in hostile territory. Once he learned about his speed though, he became obsessed and craved more, like any villain does. He named himself after the Hindu god of motion and spent years studying, learning new powers that no other speedster had mastered. He can protect himself in what is in essence a speed force field, give speed to objects and even other people, and heal injuries instantaneously instead of just way faster. As Savitar's obsession grew, so did his followers, and he became the leader of basically his own self-worshipping cult. That's the dream. And as he desired more, he went after the only speedster around at the time, Johnny Quick. The fight ended up causing Max Mercury to show up, who led him to the speed field where Savitar bounced off. He did at some point return, and instead wanted to eliminate his competition, including the Flash, Impulse, and especially Max. But he ended up dying in the Flash Volume 2 number 111 in 1996. Halfway through in at number 5, Capitalist Couriers. First appearing in the Flash Volume 2 number 6 in 1987, the group, originally known as the Red Trinity, was created by Russian scientist Pyotr Orlov, I totally butchered that, when he and his partner attempted to recreate Flash's super speed abilities after watching a daring rescue. The second group of test subjects was successful and were named the Red Trinity. The group included Anatoly, Bebek, and Cassiopeia, and they became agents for the Soviet military. But here is where it gets weird. When the third Flash came to enlist the help of Dr. Orlov in the issue of saving Jerry McGee's life, the Red Trinity chose to follow Orlov to America. While there, they became infatuated with American culture and chose to stay in the US, opening a business as a team of super speed messengers called Capitalist Courier Service Inc. Cassiopeia has since died because he was running up the side of a building trying to make a delivery when his speed vanished and he fell to his death. This was thanks to Savitar's reappearance. These Russian speedsters literally made Amazon super prime. That's hilarious and I love it. That's probably what I would do with my powers, honestly, now that I've gotten the idea from this. Thank you. In at 4, Silent Running. When your world is described as a paradise, there isn't much that you can think to screw it up. That's because you didn't consider volcanic eruptions blotting out the sun, sending that once paradise into an ice age. When this happened, surviving members of the Holy Light religion went on a pilgrimage to find salvation for their people. The leader of the Holy Light, Stephen Mallory, left his sons behind while he went on his journey. Brian and Tristan were left alone, with Tristan taking his father's place as leader while he was gone, even though Brian was the eldest. However, upon their father's return, Tristan killed him. Then the brothers went out into the world in search of lightning, one of the foundations of their religion. They eventually got struck by lightning, which had an interesting interesting effect. Tristan, the one who killed their father, was aged, while Brian was given super speed and the power to create what they call green life. So Tristan kinda freaked out, locking Brian in the heart of a machine that pushes back the ice to create a livable city, because Tristan believed this was necessary to save everyone, but considered himself a living god of sorts. He demanded people obey his will and use their life force to keep himself young for centuries, all the while trying to be blessed by lightning, which I'm guessing means getting struck by lightning over and over again. Getting close to the end in number 3, Wizard. This version of the Flash actually comes from the Marvel Universe, believe it or not. And while yes, the Speedsters are a superhero archetype now, this one is a deliberate reference to the Flash from an unofficial Justice League vs. Avengers crossover fight in the Marvel Universe. The Wizard is a member of the Squadron Supreme, which comes from a parallel dimension of the Marvel Universe. Stanley Stewart is his name, and while running late one night, he ran through a strange fog. Over the next few weeks, he gained the ability to run faster than anyone else. The original goal of the Squadron, which Wizard was a founding member of, was to create a utopia, which they would have accomplished. They turned much of the world into a paradise within the first year, but stopped when a former member, known as Nighthawk, convinced them that it was in essence a dictatorship. Shortly after the project ended, multiple members of the team got stranded in the Marvel Universe, but did end up making it home. Penultimately, in at number 2, No Rules to Follow. In an Elseworlds story where metahumans are hated, much like mutants in the Marvel Universe, 10 individuals with superpowers banded together to try and get the world to trust them by doing good deeds. These people, who on other Earths would be known as the Flash, Shark, Fire, Dr. Light, Polaris, Power Girl, Poison Ivy, Tasmanian Devil, Changeling, and Metamorpho. But unfortunately, they didn't accomplish their goal, since their attempts to contain a nuclear meltdown made everything worse. After this disaster, metahumans went into hiding, and a few metas, Flash included, begin raiding military bases that had previously attacked them. But after a battle with the Control Squad, which was a group of high-tech operatives with the Wayne Foundation, created to fight the metahuman menace, caused an even further split, resulting in Ivy, Changeling, and Metamorpho all hating the military even more. But when Superman showed himself after some convincing, Wayne funded a new group, made of the original 10 metas minus those who wanted revenge, and replaced those 3 with Blue Beetle, Booster Gold, and Superman. This new group, which was dedicated to upholding tolerance and justice for humans and metahumans alike, became known as the Justice League. But this version of the Flash also looks like really weird. It looks like if Juggernaut was cosplaying the Flash. Straight up. Finally, in at number 1, the terrific Whatsit. Last time I talked about the Crash, a turtle from Earth C- that has super speed, but now I bring you an even more ridiculous version, the terrific Whatsit. Merton McSnurtle first appeared in Funny Stuff number 1 in 1944 and was a World War II era hero on Earth C-. He has super speed, super strength, and can fly. And the reason he's called Whatsit is because in an effort to conceal his identity, wait for it, he takes off his shell when he puts on his costume, so nobody knows that he's a turtle. That's even funnier than the whole like glasses thing for Superman. This version of the Flash even dresses like Jay Garrick with the helmet and everything. I'm not kidding. It's absolutely incredible. I love it so much. His name is McSnurtle. He's McSnurtle the turtle. Hell yeah, baby. And at 10, New Earth. Now, I'd like to say that technically New Earth is no longer the main continuity, since Prime Earth currently is, so I'm allowing New Earth Oliver to be on this list, okay? My list, my rules. New Earth Oliver is pretty badass, since in the 0 Hour storyline, after being thrust into another timeline where he stares at his own dead body, he gets pulled back and recruited by Batman to help in the fight against his once good friend Hal Jordan, who had recently gone mad thanks to Coast City being destroyed and then being possessed by Parallax. Oliver didn't want to believe it, but after seeing what Hal had become, he knew what he had to do. In the final battle, Oliver straight up shot Parallax in the chest, ending the battle and saving the universe. But Oliver was pretty messed up after this, understandably, because you know, he just killed his best friend. So Ollie returned to where he committed his first murder, because you know, that's great for your mental health, and swore off being a superhero. But obviously, this wouldn't stick. Still pretty sick though. In at 9, Archer. Appearing in the animated movie Justice League Crisis on Two Earths, this version of Oliver Queen is the evil version who's a member of the crime syndicate. While he doesn't have much else going for him, being a match for the main Earth Oliver, he does have the moral advantage. You see, when you don't have a moral code, you can basically do anything, and that's what Archer experiences in this movie, even attempting to assassinate President Slade Wilson's daughter during a public speech. Yeah, it's pretty messed up. Dressing in red so he can hide all the blood, this guy is willing to kill whoever he has to in order to survive, gain more power, or even just have a bit of fun. And that puts him at an advantage over good Oliver, because he could easily put someone's life in danger as a distraction and it would work. If you're enjoying this list and want to see more like it, why don't you hit those shiny like and subscribe buttons? It really helps us out and can make a huge difference. Okay, let's keep going. In a day, Injustice. While the Dictator Superman universe version of Green Arrow dies brutally after accidentally shooting John Kent, the Earth 1 version of Green Arrow ends up being summoned by the Evilverse Batman to take down the crazy Superman. But in this reality, there is a pill that the Joker calls the Happy Pill, at least in the game, that increases their resistance to attacks, luckily making it slightly harder for Superman to kill this version of Oliver Queen. This pill does make him more powerful than his original and Archer counterparts, so that's why he's on this list, especially because everyone on Evil Man Earth is like, oh damn, Oliver Queen is back? How did that happen? I mean, like, it's pretty normal for Oliver, I guess. He's basically at this point one of DC's Jesuses, but still, I'm sure that made at least some people question Superman's true power, but it probably didn't last for long, because if it did, they would get their heads blown off or like heat vision through their skull. Do you think Superman plays golf with human heads? I'd like to think so.
4.
And at 7, Goliath. Goliath is the Amalgam Universe version of Oliver Queen and Goliath. While not really an archer, Goliath does have the Marvel Universe's Goliath powers, including the ability to grow and shrink. What makes him part Oliver Queen is his relationship to Canary, which parallels to Goliath and Mockingbird's relationship in the Marvel Universe. First introduced in JLX number 1 in 1996, I'm sure you can see why Goliath would be a powerful version of Green Arrow. Actually, while learning about this character, I decided to move him up quite a bit, because being able to grow or shrink at will instead of needing to wear a suit like Ant-Man is certainly a power that is scary to deal with, especially with the basic invulnerability that he has thanks to Goliath. The only thing that really makes him Oliver Queen though is his name and his relationship to Canary, so that's why he's higher up on the list. And at 6, Roy Harper. Now, while Roy Harper may be younger and more naive than Oliver Queen, he does become quite the respectable superhero in his own right, and has gotten through some serious issues, including multiple substance abuse issues, which is inspirational to say the least. While also being an expert archer, Roy is an excellent acrobat and has been shown as an expert mechanic and engineer, designing and building his own trick arrows as well as trick arrows for Oliver, not to mention additional weapons, robots, and defense systems. He's also been shown as quite the expert hacker, and was able to jailbreak his phone and give it voice recognition. Roy Harper invented Siri, guys. Aside from that, the Arrowverse version of Roy was also given a dose of Mirakuru and survived, turning him into a living weapon much like Slade Wilson. While the Mirakuru was in his system, Roy was able to punch through a shipping container that was bullet and explosion proof, not to mention the healing factor he gained, and the ability to punch through brick without ironically breaking a sweat. Although this came with its own set of issues, including anger management problems, which isn't good when your mentor has just sworn off killing. Not to mention the one time Roy in the comics had a Black Lantern ring in the Blackest Night storyline. Halfway through, and at number 5, Flashpoint. Flashpoint Oliver is an interesting case here, because while he is on the side of good, he's more on the side of profit. Leading a band of ex-military operatives he calls the Green Arrows, Oliver runs a business where he steals advanced gadgets and weapons from villains and refurbishes them for military use, which honestly makes him pretty damn powerful. If he can not only acquire these weapons, but also if he used them, he could be considered one of the most powerful non-superpowered individuals in the Flashpoint timeline. But I also like to consider the fact that just because Barry's mom didn't die, Oliver isn't as much of a do-gooder as he is in the main timeline, or that just because Barry's mom didn't die, Bruce Wayne is the one who dies in the alley. It's incredible to me, honestly. This version of Green Arrow was introduced in Flashpoint Green Arrow Industries number 1 in 2011, and this one is definitely on my read list. I'm probably gonna pull it up when I get home because this is really cool, even if it is slightly concerning. And at 4, Connor Hawke. Connor Hawke is the son of Green Arrow and Sandra Hawke, and takes over the Green Arrow mantle after his father's death. When introduced in Green Arrow Volume 2 number 0 in 1994, he appeared to just be a huge fan of the Green Arrow, but it was later revealed that, unbeknownst to Oliver, Connor was in fact his son. It feels fitting that it's my name now, honestly. And while he may share the same skills as his father, although less evolved, Connor does end up gaining a couple powers over his father, one of them being a healing factor, granted to him due to genetic mutations from Dr. Savannah, this giving him also a higher resistance to pain. This also allows him to stay at his prime with ease, much like Logan, and thanks to Connor's Zen training, he was able to develop a form of clairvoyance. This is the ability that gave him a vision of his father still alive, despite the world thinking that he was dead. See, he has a reason to be on this list other than us just sharing names, okay? Getting close to the end, and at number 3, Blackest Night. The Black Lantern Corps is a group of various dead superheroes and villains alike who are raised by Necron and each given a Black Lantern ring. This ring grants them power over death, and these rings are powered by the Anti-Monitor, as he is present within the Black Lantern power battery. Those raised by the Black Lantern ring are in essence resurrected to where they were before, but with their minds warped to serve Necron's purpose. Those with the ring have various powers, including a healing factor, aura recognition which allows them to see powerful emotions, energy spectrum assimilation which lets them extract the hearts of individuals they've slain and use their last feelings to charge the central battery and their ring by 0.01%, and they, much like zombies, can infect others by biting them. A bite from a Black Lantern will slowly kill the one bitten and would turn them into a Black Lantern upon death. Basically zombies with superpowers, so definitely not something to be laughing at. Penultimately, in at number 2, the Spectre. While I really wanted to put this at number 1, I knew at least a few of you would be mad at me for it, so here we are at number 2. The Arrowverse crossover event Crisis on Infinite Earths had been in the process of being set up for a while, with the previous Elseworlds crossover basically just being one big commercial for it, and the seasons of the shows leading up to it mostly revolved around what would happen. One of these main issues was Oliver Queen's death, which shockingly was carried out in the first part of the crossover. After bringing Oliver Queen back to life with a Lazarus pit on Earth 19, John Diggle, his daughter from the future Mia, and Constantine all travel to Purgatory to retrieve his soul. But when he was about to go back with them, Jim Corrigan arrives with a way for Oliver to save everyone. This turns Oliver into the Spectre, basically the most powerful being in the multiverse, or one of them at least, giving him the powers of God, allowing Oliver to reboot the universe with the help of the Paragons, and stopping the Anti-Monitor from securing the death of all Earths. He also ended up corrupting the Speed Force by empowering Barry, which resulted in the Speed Force dying for a time. This really should be number 1, but whatever. Finally, in at number 1, Brightest Day. After Hal Jordan absorbed the entity of life, he spread its power over multiple superheroes, some of who were Black Lanterns at the time. This included the Green Arrow, which fully resurrected him. And a white power ring is certainly the most powerful ring of them all. One ring to rule them all. Being able to generate and use any color from the spectrum, since white light is all the other colors combined. This allows White Lanterns to in essence have near godlike abilities with all the colors. White energy blasts, force field generation, energy constructs, energy twins, ring duplication, mind alteration, wormhole generation, time travel, invisibility, resurrection, you name it and the White Lanterns can do it. The full extent of the white power ring is unknown, so honestly, this is the only thing I saw fit to beat the Spectre if anything. I mean, the white power ring may not be able to reboot the universe, but hey, we don't know if it could. It can resurrect people, so why not resurrect planets, right? I mean, probably. Hopefully that's not too big of a leap in logic. In at 10, Wildstorm. On this Earth, Oliver's story remains largely the same, with Oliver being stranded on an island after the boat his parents and himself were on went down in the sea. He spent years on this island, gaining more and more skills as the years went by, becoming very capable but ruthless. Eventually he was found and brought home, where he took over his family's company. This, however, is where this version differs from the one we all know and love. Settling in San Francisco instead of Star City, Oliver started another business, buying islands, enhancing them, and then selling them to the richest, most powerful bidder. Although this drew attention of activists, who accused him of doing the same thing to their city, flooding it with weapons and illicit substances to buy the land cheap and sell high. However, this all hid his real goal. In secret, Oliver was kidnapping homeless veterans and releasing them onto an island he made to look exactly like the one he was stranded on. When they were released, he would then hunt them for sport. Horrible, but to be able to get away with that, you gotta be pretty powerful. And at 9, President Queen. Turns out in the new 52 version of Earth 3, Oliver Queen is the President of the United States, but still uses a bow and arrow. Not much is known about this version of Oliver Queen, but he first appeared in Crime Syndicate #1 in May of this year, so he hasn't really been around for very long to gather more info. However, during this issue, Oliver had a meeting with the ambassador of Themyscira, Donna Troy, when they were attacked by Starro. Donna Troy in this universe being the evil version of Wonder Woman, who has a hold on the president, using it to gain intel on the Crime Syndicate's enemies and God knows what else. Within the first few frames that she appears, she gets Oliver to give her top secret files on metas. And while this Oliver himself may be a little bit of a pansy, having him in office is much better for the Crime Syndicate than someone else. So having the whole team behind him, protecting his presidency, certainly makes him one powerful president. And at 8, Smallville. The Smallville Green Arrow remains largely similar to his Arrowverse counterpart. but obviously with a couple major differences. But in terms of power, they seem to have similar abilities, though Arrowverse Green Arrow is more willing to kill when necessary, rather than the few times we see Smallville Arrow willing to leave people for dead. Smallville Green Arrow also has a larger arsenal of trick arrows, with some remaining the same like grappling arrows, zipline arrows, and explosive arrows, but with additions like a diamond-tipped arrow, taser bomb, and knockout gas darts. One of the major differences between the two is that the Smallville Green Arrow lives until the end of the series, and is a co-founder of the Justice League, even if it appears like he dies in Earth 90 during the Crisis on Infinite Events crossover. But as we later learn, the Smallville Earth is actually Earth 167, not 90, so this version of Oliver Queen is still alive. Well, I mean, all the Earths were destroyed, so maybe he's not anymore, so oof. Never mind. And at 7, Justice. This version of Oliver first appeared in Justice #1 from 2005. His family was not taken from him like other versions were, so he grew accustomed to comfort and a quality of life that allowed him to detach himself from the rest of the world. His boat, though, was overtaken by modern day pirates. Yeah, I'm not kidding on that one either. It's actually a thing. So Oliver was knocked overboard. He survived but was lost on an uncharted island, so he still became the Green Arrow. And because he still became the Green Arrow, the Legion of Doom sent Clayface and Scarecrow to his apartment to kill him and Canary. Under the effects of fear gas though, Canary blasted Clayface while he was on top of Arrow impersonating her. It's weird. But luckily the scream did not affect Oliver because Clayface had impersonated her as a blonde. And Oliver assumed that since she was wearing her wig, he would need earplugs for their bedroom activities, which, based on her reaction, isn't something that happens often or at all, although I'm sure that it's not due to lack of trying on Oliver's part. Oliver and Canary then go on to fight a Brainiac-controlled Gorilla Grodd, and Oliver even fights off Supergirl, so needless to say, he's pretty badass. And at 6, Prometheus. Hailing from the Arrowverse, this version of Prometheus is more like the Green Arrow than other versions. This version of Prometheus has sworn revenge on Oliver alone, instead of justice entirely. So, Simon Morrison, as he was first known, went through similar training to the Green Arrow, even tracking down Talia al Ghul, one of Oliver's teachers. Now going by Adrian Chase, Prometheus became the district attorney of Star City, and worked closely alongside its mayor, Oliver Queen. As Prometheus, Chase would do horrible things, recreating one of Oliver's missions from off-screen in season 1, the one where he killed Justin Claiborne, Adrian's father. He killed people and used their names as anagrams for names on Oliver's list from season 1 using throwing stars made out of Oliver's old arrows. He also kidnapped Billy Malone, Felicity's boyfriend at the time, and tricked Oliver into killing Billy. He tortured Oliver to the point of breaking him, wanting Oliver to admit to himself that he enjoyed killing, and he even killed his own wife to keep his identity a secret, along with the 2 cops that were protecting him when they were worried about the district attorney's safety because of Prometheus. Then they got a text saying that Adrian was Prometheus, and he threw a pen into the dude's eye and then killed the other one. Yeah. He's one hell of an evil dude, but the best villain that Arrow gave us, hands down. Oh, he also blows up Lian Yu with all of Team Arrow and Samantha Clayton, William's mother, on the island. And for some reason it only killed her. Halfway through in at number 5, The Flash. This number is, I have to be honest, pretty weird, since in the Elseworlds crossover event for the Arrowverse from 2018, Oliver Queen became the Flash. Now technically everyone thought that Oliver was Barry, but Oliver and Barry, as well as everyone on other Earths, knew the difference between them. So they knew that Oliver was Oliver and Barry was Barry. So this is just like a gray area, hence why it's at the halfway point, because Oliver was the Flash, so much so that he said his signature line of "You have failed this city," and while yes, they can swap identities to everyone around them, they still retained their own memories and personalities, meaning that Oliver, in combination with this super speed, still had all of his instincts and skill. Those are just like second nature to him. You can't really like get rid of those. He would have to keep them. Even if Barry also got those instincts. It's weird because Oliver didn't have Barry's knowledge of how to use his speed, but Barry had all of Oliver's instincts, because I guess technically those are his powers. But Oliver would still have to have them because he had all of his memories. So I gotta be honest, I don't know. But either way, it's damn powerful because it's the Flash and can beat instantaneous teleportation, so. And at 4, Earth X. Earth X or Earth 10 is an Earth where Germany won World War II, so I gotta be kinda careful here with what I say. As a result though, there are plenty of differences. On this Earth, Oliver works for the regime, and was able to ascend quickly thanks to being injected with Mirakuru. After joining the youth squad for the military, Oliver was sent to Lian Yu to train, where he demonstrated excellent skill with the bow, being quickly promoted to the top assassinating position for, the military. Oliver was loyal until his younger sister Thea was recruited into the youth squad. This, combined with his father's admission of regret before his self-imposed death, Oliver ran to the resistance and asked them to rescue Thea, promising to defect if they did. While preparing for their operation, Oliver provided the resistance with information they used to help in the fight. Finally though, in 2012, the resistance rescued Thea and Oliver defected. After he does though, he has to fight off Quentin Lance and Floyd Lawton, who were sent by the military leader to kill Oliver. But having Mirakuru in your system makes you pretty damn powerful, as we've seen. Getting close to the end in at number 3, Ring of Evil. There isn't really much information about this Green Arrow from the Ring of Evil. However, from what I can tell, it appears that Oliver is the leader of the Green Lantern Corps in this reality. His only appearance being in the Green Lantern Annual Volume 3 Number 3, this Oliver is a member of the Hooded Lanterns of the Green, and carries both a Green Lantern and a green arrow, which he later passes on to someone else. This leads me to believe that Oliver in this reality leads the Green Lanterns or formed the Green Lanterns, and this arrow is an indication of who leads them. And if I am correct, leading the Green Lanterns is pretty damn impressive, and wielding a power ring makes him immensely powerful. Not as powerful as the White Lanterns from the last part or even the Spectre, but still pretty damn powerful, especially as the leader. But like I said, he does pass the arrow on to another, that individual being, penultimately in at number 2, John Stewart. I was unable to find this issue online, but presumably at the end of the issue, Oliver Queen bestows John Stewart with the green arrow that he carries around, saying, "Congratulations, John Stewart," which certainly makes it seem like a promotion. And while Oliver may be the leader, considering how multiple instances of John Stewart are Green Lanterns, I'm sure that this version is going to be fine, especially when he will have plenty of time to master his abilities, as a master archer as well as the leader of the Hooded Lanterns of the Green, because I think it's fairly evident that even with the name of Green Arrow, John Stewart is going to be a better Green Lantern than Oliver could, unfortunately. It sucks to admit it, but I have to say it. I just find it unfortunate that it wasn't revealed that John Diggle was actually John Stewart, but maybe this is the story that inspired Diggs' character to begin with, or the storyline where John became the Green Arrow while Oliver was being a dad. Finally, in at number 1, Clark Kent. Now this may seem like a cop-out, but in episode 10 of Smallville season 8, we got to see the most powerful version of Green Arrow we ever have. Well, one of the most powerful, since Clark Kent dressed up as the Green Arrow to save Lois Lane. Why? Because, well, Lois had begun to suspect Oliver of being the Green Arrow, so in an attempt to make her believe otherwise, Clark suits up as the GA and saves Lois. After saving her from some thugs and absolutely destroying them without firing a single arrow, Lois approaches him and kisses him, saying that his secret is safe with her. But then Oliver shows up and says that's one hell of a thank you, instantly flustering her. Clark rushes off, and then it's revealed that he was the one in the suit. And I mean, like, Superman as the Green Arrow, it's pretty damn powerful. It's Superman. Superman, just in the Green Arrow suit. It counts, okay? It counts. And at 10, Trigger Twins. The moniker of the Trigger Twins was originally used by Walt and Wayne Trigger, two cowboy heroes from the Old West. Tad and Tom Trigger also called themselves the Trigger Twins while working as criminals in Gotham City. However, Oliver Queen was enlisted as a Trigger Twin in the second part of the Elseworlds crossover event on the CW. In the Arrowverse, the Trigger Twins are a notorious criminal duo created in the second alternate reality created by Dr. John Deegan using the Book of Destiny, given to him by the Monitor. While technically not really the Green Arrow, Diaz as a cop calls Oliver by his actual name, thus making it good enough for me. The Trigger Twins were the most feared criminals in Central City. They became the CCPD's #1 priority after a bank robbery spree. So, they were criminals before I guess they were awoken, when, they swapped into that reality. This change happened at the end of Arrow's part of the crossover, Part 2, and Supergirl's Part 3. In at 9, Dark Archer. Malcolm Merlyn is a bow-wielding assassin who serves as the archenemy to the Green Arrow, but has also gone up against the likes of the Black Canary, obviously, and Batman. The character also made his live-action debut in 2012 with the first season of Arrow. Before becoming the Green Arrow, Oliver Queen was inspired to take up archery by the exploits of Oliver King, aka Malcolm the Magician, who was a master archer with acute accuracy. Merlin later challenged the Green Arrow to a public duel and wrecked him. After that, Merlin vanished and became a member of the League of Assassins, a plot point that would later be worked into the show. The Green Arrow came face to face with the Dark Archer again when he tried to assassinate Batman. GA managed to intercept Merlin's arrow, hitting it with one of his own. Merlin admitted that GA had improved, but then he escaped before getting caught. While not being a version of Oliver Queen, Merlin is sure meant to be a dark reflection of the witty and humorous Green Arrow that we know from the comics, and that's enough to land him a spot on this list. And at 8, Flashpoint. The Flashpoint version of Green Arrow isn't really a bad guy per se, but he is definitely a dark alternate version. In the Flashpoint timeline, Oliver Queen is the head of Green Arrow Industries, a military contracting company a la Tony Stark. He has a team known as the Green Arrows who are all ex-military who serve as his backup when acquiring new equipment. Oliver Queen is an inventive genius, but he likes to steal advanced gadgets from villains and then refurbish them to sell to the military. He also tests them in the city, making the city a target for the villains who want their gear back, which is kinda evil if you think about it. He turns to fighting crime after finding a female raider who killed his Green Arrows. The raider was the daughter of Vixen, so Ollie called a backup team. However, they ended up killing his daughter, which turned him towards fighting crime instead of profiting from it. And at 7, JLA The Nail. Oliver Queen is in a rough spot when it comes to Justice League of America The Nail. In this universe, Oliver Queen was his own downfall during a fight with the android Amazo, where he ended up becoming indirectly responsible for the death of Hawkman. This incident lost him both his legs and his right arm, and also he lost his left eye due to the injuries sustained by Amazo. This also caused Oliver to resign from the Justice League and start blaming them for his injuries. A while after this, Oliver was really bitter and harbored so much resentment towards the League that he began making claims that the League and all metahumans are secretly aliens conspiring against humanity. He sounds like my dad. This was so uncharacteristic of the hero we all love, but it was his trauma, and I'm pretty sure some form of PTSD manifesting in that way, as a way to cope with the loss of his limbs and abilities, which had helped define him up until that point. And at 6, it's Cupid, stupid. Carrie Cutter had appeared in both the comics and the show in the form of her alias Cupid. Carrie was a special ops soldier who worked for a program called Cobalt. During a mission in Georgia, she saw something that really messed her up, so in an effort to face that, she volunteered for a program that would make her fearless. It also turned her emotions up to 11 when it comes to love, making her fall in love really quickly, passionately, and aggressively, never for the better, even if you're into that kind of thing. In the TV show, she was first introduced in Arrow Season 3 Episode 7, where she uses love and pleasure as a way to manipulate people in order to find the one she has, air quotes, fallen for. For the show, she had fallen for Oliver after he saved her from getting killed during Slade Wilson's siege the season prior, hence her archery. You know? Her psychiatrist diagnoses her with having attachment disorder, the inability to form meaningful relationships, as she puts it. She gets away but comes back killing newlyweds because her love got destroyed. She also makes an appearance in the show's Suicide Squad in love with Deadshot before he dies. Halfway through, number 5, Prometheus. Prometheus is another iconic Green Arrow villain meant to be a dark reflection of him, especially in his Arrow Season 5 appearance, being an even darker version of Deathstroke, who are both villains created by Oliver due to his past actions. In the comics, Prometheus deals a whole load of damage to Green Arrow, both mentally and in the sales, thanks to another comic storyline. In Cry for Justice, a slew of superhero deaths and attacks on heroes are revealed to be the work of Prometheus. In the story, he also ends up taking Roy Harper's arm and killing his daughter in the bomb that went off in Star City. Once Oliver sees this, he sets out on finding Prometheus and killing him. Oliver finds Prometheus and kills him by shooting an arrow between his eyes, and then this leads to Oliver being put on trial for the murder in what is considered one of, if not the worst GA storyline ever. In the show, Prometheus is the son of Justin Claiborne, who Oliver killed during season 1 of the show. They're so alike that Prometheus even gets confused for the Green Arrow during his first attack on a cop outside of the police station. Ballsy move, by the way. This character is a much darker version than even the Dark Archer, killing to spell out names of the original season 1 lists and more. In it for Arrowverse. The Arrowverse has been mentioned a lot on this list, not because specific characters only appear there, but because they also make an appearance there. However, the actual Green Arrow from the show is much darker than the hilarious comic we all know from the comics. As the Warp Zone said in their Arrow Season 1 to 5 recap wrap, DC needed a show way more hardcore to make Smallville look like Cupcake Wars. But they couldn't get the right to the Dark Knight, so they settled for a white bread Hawkeye. So they made this character even darker than his comic counterpart in order for him to have more of an impact on screen and to probably make it more realistic. The Arrow, as he was called in Season 1, was not afraid of killing. He would kill anyone who stood in his way and wouldn't hesitate to kill those on his list, even willing to kill himself in order to defeat Malcolm Merlyn. While he did end up getting lighter, the show is still a much darker tone than the comics or even the animated versions of the Green Arrow that are currently out or that have been out. So that's fitting to be on this list. Plus I love the Arrowverse, so I'm gonna keep talking about it. And at 3, Black Lantern. For those of you who may remember, my first video on the channel was the top 10 Black Lanterns you need to know about. And Oliver Queen wasn't on that list because, well, Swamp Thing was a Black Lantern. That dude is literally the Earth, and he was a Black Lantern. Anyway, first appearing or being resurrected, I guess, in Blackest Night number 5 from January 2010, Oliver was transformed into a Black Lantern during the events of Blackest Night, which saw him attack his former allies, including his son, wife, and sidekick Speedy. During the battle, his son Connor reveals that he never really forgave his father, and Oliver's internal monologue reveals that he hopes his family is okay and that he is disgusted by his actions. He has concerns for those who were his family before death and wishes them well, even though, you know, his body's the one attacking them. The team managed to disable him by freezing him with liquid nitrogen, which is pretty cool if you ask me. What? That joke was not chill? Maybe not. Stay cool, bird boy. And at 2, Deadeye. First appearing in Justice League Quarterly number 8 in September of 1992, Deadeye is a version of Green Arrow from the Antimatter universe. Not much is known about this character, not even his real name. He is only known by the moniker of Deadeye. He is a member of the Crime Syndicate, an evil version of the Justice League from Earth 3, which includes such characters as Johnny Quick, Owlman, Ultraman, Superwoman, The Outsider, Deathstorm, and Power Ring. It's a crazy team and I actually really love the characters. But Deadeye has been in the comics so little that there is hardly any information on him. He could be Oliver Queen, but he could just as easily not be. But with the introduction of the Antimatter universe in the Arrowverse, I would like to see this character make his appearance in that show. Maybe in the next Arrow crossover event. I was hoping they would do Blackest Night, but with Supergirl coming to a close because of Melissa having a kid soon, I don't know if that's gonna happen. Finally, in at number 1, Earth X. Crisis on Earth X was the 4th Arrowverse crossover, where the wedding of Barry Allen and Iris West gets interrupted by a group of 9 from Earth X, an alternate Earth where Germany had won World War II and taken over the world. The crossover featured evil fascist versions of Supergirl and the Green Arrow, and Earth 1's version of Reverse Flash instead of an evil Barry Allen. The evil Green Arrow was equal to Earth 1's Green Arrow, matching him blow for blow, but exploiting the weakness of our Oliver's loved ones. This later came to bite him though, since RGA was able to kill him during the final fight scene when the Earth X version watched his wife explode. Literally. He was married to Overgirl from Earth X, and she literally blew up because her heart was deteriorating, hence why they invaded Earth 1 to begin with, so they could get this Supergirl's heart. Thank God they invaded Earth 1 instead of Supergirl's Earth, right? Like, every hero was on Earth 1. If they had gone to Earth like 37 or whatever Earth she's on, they would have been screwed. I don't think Clark would have been enough to take on a full Earth of NAZIs. I don't know if that word's gonna get censored because of YouTube, so yeah, if it does, that sucks.